Hey, Happy New Year. Welcome to the Wise Guys, our first show of 2025. Dave McCann, Blaine, Fowler. Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. Our new podcast will be out tomorrow, available wherever you get your podcasts. The stream is hopping. It's a fresh new start for everybody, and we welcome you to 2025.
Coming from stakes in Missouri, I mean, the stream's already going full speed here. Like, my goodness. Panama's live again. There we go.
Good. Welcome. We were worried about you.
Beaumont, Texas is in the house. Hola from Costa Rica. Looking forward to the show. Todd Kelly, thanks for checking in from Costa Rica. I like that Mark Actual says, I'm watching from Target while my wife shops. So I hope you have earphones in, Mark Actual. We appreciate you being there. So much fun. People from all over the globe. Somebody said they were from Antarctica last week, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Is that for real?
How about Jay tuning in from 30,000 feet? Okay, all right. We've been on planes before, and we're on planes again. Sugar City, Idaho, Cary, Idaho. Good to have the Gem State represented. A lot of people think that's a potato state, but it's the Gem State up there.
Yeah, it's the Gem State, but they are well known for potatoes. Yeah. They have the best potatoes in the world.
When I was at Rick's many moons ago, there was a big potato field outside our apartment.
Yeah.
And during the harvest time, I'll be honest, we went out there and harvested after the tractors went through and there were spuds everywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was right. It probably wasn't legal, but man, those things were this big. And we ate them. We're college kids, and I just remember going, man, okay, this is where potatoes come from.
Nope, nobody has potatoes like Idaho. So
San Diego is in the house. Good to have Conrad with us on the Wise Guys. Wise Guys is thrilled to have Brady Plus, our title sponsor, as we roll into the new year. We may add some more coming up. Brady Plus provides cleaning, food service, and packaging equipment, dispensers, and service and repairs with over 150 distribution facilities across the country, over 6,000 employees, and the president, of course, is a BYU alum and our good friend.
Travis Brady is a good man. Deseret News is now our distribution partner. We're grateful to have the Deseret News and Deseret.com as part of the Wise Guys family. Deseret News, Utah's newspaper since 1850. You can watch for our content on our social media sites as we serve Cougar Nation all over the world. And we're grateful to have Brady Plus and Deseret News. Great partnership that carried us through this last year and into 2025.
So I was in the bookstore the other day and I ran into Corey Yashimura.
Oh, yeah.
And he wasn't in Japan. He was just right in the BYU store over on campus. And we haven't met before. But he came up and he goes, hey, Dave, it's me, Corey. I'm thinking to myself, what Corys do I know? I know one from Japan. And I go, hey, what are you doing over here? And then he realized, hey, we know each other. And
that's right.
Anyway, he's going to be back in town in May, and he's going to come on the show.
Oh, that'd
be
great.
Well, come on in. He goes, well, I'm just a regular guy. I said, we're all regular guys.
He's not just a regular guy, just for the record. But you're right. We're all regular guys. But Corey's had an amazing story. It'd be fun to talk about Corey's story because he has some Japanese heritage. He served in Japan. Mm-hmm. He's fluent in the language. And he works for the PGA Tour over in Japan. Basically runs everything over there.
And Hideki Matsuyama, who won the tournament over the weekend to start the PGA Tour again this year, that's his guy.
Yeah. He manages all of those players and helps them with all they're supposed to do. And it was funny because we went to the Masters with Corey a couple years ago, and Hideki was the defending champ. And we would watch Corey to go have a conversation with Hideki, and Hideki would have a frown, and we'd say, why is Hideki frowning? And he would say, well, because basically I tell Hideki who he's going to talk to, and I'm setting up his schedule, and he's got to make this appearance and that appearance, and Hideki just wants to play golf. But he's very involved with all of that, and all of those players on the Asian that come from Asia that are play on the PGA Tour. Corey works with and helps manage all of those guys. So he's a little more than just a normal little guy, probably.
Yeah. So I said, hey.
And I'm not going to tell the story because I want, when he comes on in May, it's a fascinating story of how he made his way back to Japan, how he's raising his family there. He didn't go over there with the PGA, but he was involved with a tournament over there. It's just fascinating how he got his job and how he landed over there. Now he's a beacon of light for BYU in Tokyo.
And he's got some new stuff from the BYU store.
And he whatever he can, he joins us at 10 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it is over there, and he's joining the Wise Guys with us. So,
David from Provo Canyon, just up the road from here, on the stream. Rebel Dogs from Huntsville, Alabama. Good to have them. Good to have you there. Larry from Orem. As we span the globe, there's Drummond, Montana, the Mackeys, and sweet. It's good to have everyone in. Today it kind of felt like the holidays are over and we're back to business.
Yeah, we're back at it, back at the grind. I felt like it at my regular work today, that's for sure. Back on the grind again. So, but we have some fun stuff to talk about tonight. Not my regular work. We're never going to talk about my regular work here.
Right. Sometimes it filters in.
Yeah, sometimes it does.
But when it has a purpose.
But we're going to have some fun tonight because we're going to cover the BYU Football Wise Guys Awards tonight. And we're going to have all of you on the live stream, vote on who you think. We'll give you some multiple. We'll give you three options on each award, and you guys can pipe in on who you think. You and I will kind of talk about who we think. I gave the quiz to Brenda and to Gavin independently before we left. They were right on the same page. So
were they?
Yeah, they're always on the same page.
It should be. There's some good questions in there. David Nixon, our BYU TV football analyst, will be along with us. We'll talk about what's next for BYU football as spring football starts next month, believe it or not. And so we'll talk about some of those things with Nix, get his idea on his opinion on a couple of the Wise Guys. Also ask him for an update on Taysom after surgery and his comeback. There's Wisconsin in the house. Good to have you on the Wise Guys tonight. So we got Nix coming up. It'll be good.
And if you wonder why Nix has the insight on Taysom, if you've watched the show, you know that's Taysom Hill is David's brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And so he'll fill us in on that.
So that gives us the inside.
And also Dave lives in like the heart of Ute country. So when BYU plays Utah in any sport, it's a little more important to Dave Nixon. So we'll talk to Dave about that a little bit. BYU Hoops, big home game tomorrow night. Bounce back time. Mm-hmm. We'll kind of review what happened a little bit at Houston, our thoughts on that, and we'll take a little bit of a look forward to Texas Tech, who is already in. They've been in Utah. They played at Utah the other night, and is going to come into the Marriott Center tomorrow night. So we'll cover that for you as well.
Larry's already thinking football. What about the Ole Miss BYU football game rumors? Yeah, that's just exactly what they are.
Yep.
Schedules are done. And they're done in advance for a long time, so there can be plenty of chatter on the social media sites. But BYU and Ole Miss, they played back in Oxford the day Van Noy caused the fumble and recovered it in the end zone and beat them 14-13. Never did come out here.
No,
they weren't interested in coming out here.
BYU game out here.
Yeah,
I could see BYU and Ole Miss playing at some point in a preseason, kickoff classic game or something like that. That could happen.
That would be great. Omaha, Nebraska. Good to have you on the live stream tonight. And by the way, for those on the podcast, we're excited to offer an ad-free podcast experience. Been talking about it the last couple of weeks. You can start listening to our podcast without any ads or interruptions. Just $8 a month, or a yearly subscription breaks out to about $7 a month.
Yeah, you can also add the ad-free version to Spotify, Apple, or Google Podcasts when you subscribe. So whatever podcast that you go to get your podcast, you can add it on to that. You get a special link to add your favorite podcast app, so you can listen just like you do now, just about everywhere, but without ads. Yeah. Just listen to it straight through.
And we don't love ads. We love ads because ads generate money, but as a viewer or listener, you're right in the middle of something, and then all of a sudden, like at LaVell Edwards Stadium, hey, we'll be back after this 3-minute and 55-second ESPN timeout.
And you and I realize that those pay the bills. That's why
we need them.
And on the podcast, like those aren't ads that we sell; those are ads that get plugged in, from the podcast companies.
Yeah, those aren't ours.
But that's why they carry us and do all that. So, but hey, if you don't want ads, you can do the ad-free podcast experience with us.
Go to ysguys.supercast.com and choose your plan.
Hey, and Sylvia's in Wisconsin is picking up right where we left off last week. She was my 3 words about the Alamo Bowl.
Oh yeah, she's still
in there.
Remember
we finished with that last week. Give us your 3 words about the Alamo Bowl, and she said exciting roller coaster dream.
That was awesome. I watched some highlights again this past week. If you ever just sit around and go, you know what, I want to watch an awesome defensive performance, you just watch that game.
Yeah, they were.
Right from the start.
They were superb defensively in that game.
Let's talk about some football news. Spring football is just around the corner. Last year they started at the end of February. In an unofficial announcement from BYU, they haven't announced it yet, but we anticipate the end of February again.
Yeah, 27th of February. It looks like they'll start spring ball, which is about the same time they started last year. So we expect the spring game to be the end of March, the first week in April. Remember last year what they did is they had that alumni game, which is what they do now, and then had another week of practice and then finished up with that.
Yeah, and that seemed fine.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. It was that alumni game was fun. You and I got to broadcast that. Steve Young came, and I think we can talk Steve into coming back. I want to get Jimmy Mack out here.
Yeah, we need
and have
him.
Jimmy on one side and Steve
even
on the
if
other.
It's for a couple of tosses.
Just for some fun, right? Just for some
He'll be
fun.
out there barefoot.
Yeah,
because that's how he rolls. And they will be able to practice at LaVell Edwards Stadium this year. Remember, last year they were doing the turf, and so there was nothing over there.
I'm assuming we can do the alumni game back over at LaVell Edwards this year.
That would be nice.
We had it over at the former Provo High School, and it was good, and it was unique because everybody felt close to the players because you were right down there in a high school field environment. But I think they probably move it back to LaVell Edwards Stadium this year. We'll see. Winter
semester starts on Wednesday for BYU. There's a couple of things that are intriguing about that. Darius Lassiter, well, we know by Wednesday whether or not he's coming back or not. Do you have to be enrolled right at school when school starts? Do you have to be enrolled to be in?
Yeah.
Or can you just decide a few weeks in? I would think you'd have to know right away. Caleb Etienne, will he come back? Blake Mangelson, could he come back? Those answers are still out in front of us.
Yeah, we don't know. It's interesting because we all kind of took a breath and we just been basking in the glow of the Alamo Bowl. In the meantime, the minute they got back, BYU is recruiting the portal. The coaches and the staff are recruiting the portal. They're actively engaged in recruiting high school players, and then. Now they've kind of turned the team over. This week starts off-season workouts. They turned them over to that strength and conditioning and nutrition staff who did a phenomenal job in last year's off-season of getting these guys ready to go. I mean, think about the lack, I don't know if there's a better word for that, but the absence of major injuries for the most part this last year. That's a testament to the job these guys did in the off-season. So they're with that group right now. Coaching staffs... They participate in that a little bit. They kind of monitor what's going on. And they're still recruiting. And then the coaches head off to the coaches convention on this weekend. They head out Saturday for the coaches convention, which this year is in Charlotte, North Carolina, where all the coaches from all the major programs and all around the country get together. They have workshops. They network. They, what you do is you go and you hope you pick up something in one of these conventions. You pick somebody's brain. You make a friendship that maybe you can go use as a resource, down the road. Hey, have you ever seen this? How would you manage that? It's a huge networking opportunity, and BYU staff will be heading out there this weekend.
Busy time. Here's what Judy writes on the stream. Our amazing Texas kids gifted us with Alamo Bowl ticks for Christmas and birthday. Such an amazing gift of love and awesome fun. And I think it was their guarantee of a 36-14 win. I think that must have been part of the
probably
ticket package.
It was good karma.
Nice job.
Karma.
Thanks for sharing that, Judy. Tyler Batty has accepted an invitation to play in the East-West Shrine Bowl on January 30th. That'll be on the NFL Network. This is an important time for Tyler, who played really well against Colorado, but now it's all about impressing just one person, right? You just need one team to believe in you.
One team has to go, this guy fits into what we want. And Tyler sure looks the part. He's in great condition. He played the season healthy. Yeah. And now he's got a chance to go showcase his talents in the Shrine Bowl. And then it'll be like getting ready to work out and get ready to go be in the Combine, which Tyler's been invited to. So
that's big. Not everyone gets that.
No, it's huge.
That's cool. We wish Tyler the best. Dr. Ketch in from Las Vegas. There's Pleasant Hill, California. Is that Jeff or Joel?
Where are you?
Looks like Jail. Jail Halverson.
It's Jail Halverson.
From Pleasant Hill, California.
I don't know if it's JL or Jail.
Yeah. There's McCann Road in Deming, New Mexico back.
Wait, what?
Yeah, remember
That's right.
Every now and then we hear from McCann Road. It's the road to nowhere, but it's McCann Road.
I've noticed there's a Fowler Street in a lot of cities.
Yeah.
but they're not related to me. None of the Fowlers that it's named after are related.
I don't think there's any kickbacks from a street.
No, they name a street after you, and that's just that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Hey, the NCAA is talking this month.
Yeah.
About giving student athletes 5 years of eligibility instead of 4. That would mean never mind what you did in junior college. So you come out of JC, you just get 5 years of eligibility, and you can redshirt. Now you're in the 6th year, right? This is 5 years of active playing.
Are they talking about 5? Are they talking about 6 to play 5, or are they saying? Is there going to be a compromise? And are they going to say, you know what? No more like playing games with the redshirt thing. You just get 5. Period.
Yeah, and I think it's also because of the ruling of, hey, JC play shouldn't affect your Division I play. And so the Vanderbilt quarter, that's why Lassiter and some of those guys could come back next year because they played a year of junior college ball earlier in their careers. And I think it's just a way to just go, I don't want that headache. 5 years, that's what everyone gets.
5 years, yeah. And it's interesting because it's not even consistent across sports. Football, they changed the rule a few years back where they said you can play in up to 4 games and not lose your red shirt. So young players would come in, they'd get them ready, they'd play them in the last 4 games of the year, or somebody would start to play. And then there was also the option of a medical red shirt, right? So that's how somebody like Cam Rising plays for 11 years or whatever. How many years did he actually play? 6?
I think
I always tease and say 11.
I think he's trying to come back for 7.
Yeah, I think he's trying to come back
Maybe
for
it's
7.
8. Maybe it's coming back for 8.
Yeah, what is it?
I think he's coming back for 8.
So he's trying to come back
if
from
he comes
8.
back,
yeah,
right.
Steve's telling us over there. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing. Then in basketball, if the same rule applied in basketball, and you say, well, 4 games is 1/3 of the season, then in basketball, guys should be able to play in like 9 or 10 games. But in basketball, you play in 1 game, you're done.
Yeah.
1 game, you're done. That's it. No red shirt. So there's not even consistency from sport to sport. So it'd be nice to have them come up with some. I like the idea. Just give them 5 years, and 5, and that's it. And you can play all 5.
The Scows from Alberta on the stream. Love our 2 lady Cougar hoop stars.
Yeah, 2 Canadians on the team.
We'll talk about women's hoops. Amber Whiting was going to be with us this week, but she wasn't feeling good, so she's booked for next week.
Yeah.
So we'll have her here in studio talking about women's hoops. They got a couple of big games coming up next couple of days. The fall schedule for football, August 30th. So now we're in the year. We're in the calendar year.
Yeah, we're already. This is 2025.
So in a few months, it'll be Portland State here. We're figuring that'll be a night game.
Right.
Hopefully not too late so we can fly some jets. As we tried all season. Portland State on the 30th and Stanford the following week. So back-to-back home games to open up 2025 and then go onto the road at East Carolina. And that's how it's going to start next year.
It seems like that preseason schedule is a little easier than this last year's.
Yeah, it feels like it, doesn't it?
Sure does.
You never know with East Carolina, but anymore, that has to be a win.
East Carolina, at the stage that BYU is at now here a few years later from the last time they played them during independence, BYU's depth and talent level is clearly improved, and that's a game you should go win. And East Carolina sometimes rises up and is good, but they shouldn't compete with BYU.
Yeah. Now, the Big 12 schedule was released last year. It was January 30th. Yeah. So we're figuring later this month the dates of the Big 12 games will be announced, but we know who's home and we know who's away. We just don't know when, but we'll find that out in a few weeks at the latest, it seems.
Yeah.
So we're at least in the month of that happening, but I like the home slate.
Yeah, the home slate, they've got Utah, TCU, West Virginia, and Central Florida at home. We don't know which order or what dates at this point, hopefully at the end of the month, but Utah, TCU, West Virginia, Central Florida. I like that. And then the road schedule.
Colorado, Cincinnati, Arizona, Iowa State, Texas Tech. So when we look at repeating 11-2 or something like that, it feels like those first 3 games, and if you look at the home games, they should win all 4 of those.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, they should win all 4 of those. So that puts you at 7-0.
Right.
Or at least 7 wins. And then you go on the road. You got 5 games on the road. You got to pick off 2, and you're in the race for the conference title.
Yeah,
at 9-3, you're right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you could win 3 on the road and lose 2 on the road, I think you win the conference title.
Yeah, yeah. And so And you know what? As we saw last year around the league, you can lose any of these games.
Yeah.
And so you got to play good and all that stuff. But BYU is and next week we'll dive into where they should sit in the preseason Big 12 poll.
Isn't it funny? Because last year at this time we were going, how are they going to get to 6 wins to get bowl eligible? Right. So it's like, yeah, what do we do here? So, and by the way, I will answer that. I'll answer the question that Kay Porter's asking here in just a sec, but, how do you get to bowl eligible? And you and I and Dave Nixon and all of us that kind of had some insight on who they picked up and the progress that some of these transfers from the year before had made. We were like, we don't see any reason why they can't get to 7 wins.
Yeah.
Maybe even 8. But none of us thought they would get to 11 wins. Are you kidding me? And with a very real chance that, I don't know that we'll get the benefit of the doubt, but I could actually see a rationale for having them finish in the top 10 when it's all said and done.
Yeah. With
11 teams in front of them losing in their bowl games.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're 17 now.
I can't see them any worse than 12.
Feels like they should be at 12.
Yeah.
Because some of those teams that were in the playoff were ranked behind them.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting. Yeah. 11 teams in front of them have lost.
And now you and I are talking and we're going, yeah, if they can, they should win those first 3. There isn't any reason they should lose any of those games at home. So we've already got them 7 and we haven't even started talking about the road schedule.
Yeah.
It's like Colorado's going to lose Shadur and they're going to lose Travis. And, what's going to happen with that program? Who knows? Cincinnati's always really good, but none of those. Iowa State's got a bunch coming back. Texas Tech was dangerous this year, but there's not a game on the road that you don't go, hey, if they play well,
they're not in, right?
Yeah. So now all of a sudden we're going, yeah, we'd be disappointed if they didn't get 8 or 9 wins next year.
And that's nice because that's the life of a contender.
Right. And this last year we were going, if they could get to 8, we would jump for joy.
Yeah, they got all the way to 11. 11.
Yeah.
The Norton family from Farmington, Utah, in with us. Reed in Clinton. Good to see you, Reed. And before we jump into these Alamo Bowl TV numbers, you want to tackle that question from Kay Porter?
So Kay, any thoughts on adding a quarterback coach? They technically BYU has a quarterbacks coach, Matt, and now I'm losing my mind. What's Matt's last name? I gotta look it up quick. They have an analyst that has been an offensive coordinator and a quarterbacks coach elsewhere that works with the quarterbacks. Specifically, he basically is the quarterback's coach. So it's not like they don't have somebody that's aligned to that position. Yeah. And frankly, BYU could do, like I was looking at some teams like the University of Cincinnati doesn't even have analysts. All of their analysts, and they added, because the NCAA this last year changed the rule, you can have more than 11 coaches now. An analyst role basically was a coach undercover. Think about it. Steve Sarkisian was an offensive analyst at Alabama, making $700,000 a year. Do you think he was an analyst, or do you think he was coaching the quarterbacks and helping run the I
Feels like he was coaching a little bit.
Yeah, I think he was coaching. and that happens everywhere. And they should probably take Gavin, our son, that coaches the safeties. Jay Hill's the defensive coordinator, so he puts a lot on Gavin to coach the safeties so that he can coordinate everything. And then Aaron Roderick's the offensive coordinator, so he puts a lot on Matt to coach the quarterback so he can coordinate the whole offense. Seems like you ought to just make Matt the quarterback's coach and make Gavin the safety's coach, or at least make him an assistant secondary coach, an assistant quarterback's coach, or something.
Feels like that would be the easy thing to do.
So and I'm gonna tell you what his last name is here, because I'm losing my mind. There he is, Matt Mitchell. Thanks for finding that for me.
Thanks, Miranda.
Thanks, Miranda, for finding that for me. But Matt Mitchell, I don't know why I lost my mind, but Matt is actively the quarterback's coach at BYU, and he's behind the scenes, so people don't know, but he does a really good job. It'll be interesting offseason for Jake and the guys in the room as they get back to work next month to keep going. And it'll be nice to have a senior quarterback in the system, who's been in the system, take the field in August. We had Keaton Slovis, but he was in Pittsburgh and USC system before he got here. And when BYU has a senior quarterback, it's well documented. Things usually go pretty good. Yeah. And by the way, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that have a big impact on what's going on, that have more input than you think, because we don't talk about them. I'm going to throw one out there. Gary Anderson.
Yeah.
Gary Anderson has a huge impact on defensive line play, overall concept on the defense. He's been a mentor to Jay Hill. They've coached together. They're close friends. I'm telling you, Gary Anderson has had a major impact this last year on BYU football. He's a consultant, right? He's a defensive consultant. And so there's some people behind the scenes that have a lot more to do with the success of the program than you would know.
Sylvia asks, what about Glenn Beck? Isn't he the quarterback's coach? Sylvia, Glenn Beck is the radio political talk show guy.
With a huge following.
And John Beck has his own quarterback coaching business, and he coaches a lot of the BYU quarterbacks, the former Cougar who's been on the show a bunch, and he does it usually in his home in California. Yeah. So that's the Beck connection.
Yeah, and I think she's probably thinking John Beck. But John is... I don't know that John would want to be a coach at a college.
Yeah, he's got so many things going.
He's got a bunch of stuff going on. He's got a lot of freedom, and he coaches multiple NFL guys and high-level college guys, and they pay him to do that, and they all fly to him. And in that, John actually has a chance to – he coaches technique. Now, Matt Mitchell and Aaron Roderick – they talk with John Beck all the time. They work with John while John works with the quarterbacks. And a lot of colleges do that. So they bless them going to work with John Beck. That's just what he's known for. And so John is more a technician, where Matt Mitchell, even though they work with John and technique and stuff in the offseason, works them out when they're not allowed to be with the quarterback's coach. But then Matt Mitchell is with Aaron Roderick, and they're talking about scheme and where's the quarterback supposed to be looking and going through film and breaking down film and doing all of those things to help these quarterbacks understand the offense better.
Now, when it comes to Glenn Beck, when I was in high school at Orem High School, I was a weekend disc jockey at K96, and Glenn Beck was the 6 to 10 p.m. night guy, Monday through Friday. This was a long, long time ago, and a much different Glenn Beck, but the same Glenn Beck who now is a superstar in what he does. But John Beck, there's Sylvia. I met John Beck. Oops. Sylvia, we're grateful to have you on the stream. David Nixon's going to join us in just a couple of minutes. Before we do that, let's wrap up this Alamo Bowl. The TV numbers were fantastic. Yes. 8 million. Largest Alamo Bowl viewership in history. And they've had some really big games. Largest TV audience in modern BYU history. You got to go back to 1953 in the black and white TV era, and BYU Utah played on NBC, and there were 60 million viewers, which seems crazy.
It was the first,
but it was a different time.
First game ever featured on national television featuring teams from the Intermountain West.
Yeah,
so it's a huge novelty.
A lot of people are like, "What's that look like?"
Yeah, I wonder what this like. Utah and BYU. Can we actually watch them on TV? Let's watch this thing.
And I think, and I'll get your opinion on this, 36-14, the most significant victory outside of beating Michigan in 84 and maybe beating number 1 Miami in 90.
Yeah, and the next one I would put on there would be Kansas State in 96. And here's why I agree with that. The Michigan game put BYU in a place they'd never been. You win the Michigan game, it doesn't matter what the record was. It was the national championship game. BYU's now national champs. Yeah. That puts BYU on the football map forever. Right. So that's got to be the most important game. Miami game, I think, put BYU on the they can play with anybody status, right?
And put Ty on the Heisman.
And one Ty the Heisman. I think that game almost single-handedly won Ty Detmer the Heisman. It was the nail that nailed it down for him, right? Yeah. And so that's a big one. Kansas State game launched BYU into a top 5 finish. So that's their other top 5 finish. And then this game announced to the world this program's a legit P4 program that we should be considering moving forward, that can compete at this level and can compete with anybody from a speed and physicality perspective. And I think it sets the tone for them to be preseason ranked. And I think they get a little bit better treatment next year if they're in the exact same situation on being in the college football playoff.
I hope so. I hope so.
So it's a hugely important one. And what a statement, and a lot of eyeballs on that game, as mentioned. So yes, those are I would say Michigan, Miami, that Colorado game, and the Kansas State game are the biggest. And you could argue the reason for any one of those being the number one. No, you can't. Michigan's number one.
Michigan's number one. Here's a Cougarboard question of the week. Speaking of Colorado. And if you're not familiar with Cougarboard, it's the largest online community of BYU fans, thousands of posts every day. This question comes from Dilbert, one of their insider subscribers. A video came out after the bowl game of Shedeur Sanders saying he couldn't tell what we were doing in our pass coverage as he and Travis Hunter were looking at their iPads. So, Blaine, can you explain what a quarterback's normally looking for on a pass play? And what does BYU do in its coverages that makes it hard for the quarterback or receivers to know where the ball should go against us? What exactly are we doing to confuse Shedeur on that night?
Yeah, and so I would try to make this as simple as I can. It's a great question, and I'll start with this. Gary Anderson, after the game, was being interviewed, and he goes, yeah, we really wanted to disguise what we were doing, and we wanted to give them different looks because if Shedeur gets 100% comfortable, he's going to pick you apart. So on 20 plays in the first half, they gave him 17 different looks, meaning they lined up differently 17 times. They only repeated 3 different lineups and coverages. And what BYU does really well is they line up in one alignment. So, for instance, and it's not just the coverage that they confuse you with, it's the front and who's going to blitz or not. Very rarely in that game did BYU bring more than 4 pass rushers, but almost every play they lined up more than 4 at the line of scrimmage. And in different places. And so Shedeur and the offensive line are going, oh no, here comes a blitz. How are we going to pick this up? And now they're focused on the front. And then behind the front, they're lined up. And they might be lined up making it look like you're going to play man-to-man. And right at the snap of the ball, some of those people drop out of the front into coverage, and the defense rotates off of man into zone coverage. Now, all of a sudden, Shedeur's like, they're blitzing, they're bringing 6 people, and they're playing man. And he's thinking, if they're going to bring 6 and they're going to play man, I'm going to have one-on-one on Travis Hunter over here. I'm just going to throw it to him. 2, they snap the football, they drop people out of coverage, they're only rushing 4, they're playing zone, and Travis Hunter has 2 people on him. And now he's like, oh, wait a minute. That's not what I thought I was going to get. And they just did that in different ways, 17 different ways in the first half alone to confuse him. They never let Shedeur Sanders or that coaching staff have a pre-snap read where they knew what BYU was going to do before they snapped the ball. They forced him to make his read on his first step on every play in the first half.
That's a good answer and a good question. And we're talking about football. I saw a note the other day of the top 100 most watched events on television in 2024, 72 are NFL games. 4 were college football games. 2 were from the Olympics. 1 was from women's basketball. The NFL had the number 1 most watched event, of course, the Super Bowl. It was an election year, so politics had 4 of the top 8 spots. But football reigns supreme, as it so often does. And with that note, let's bring in our longtime friend and BYU TV colleague, David Nixon. Outstanding linebacker at BYU, played for the Raiders, the Texans, and the Rams. There's a brick with his name on it inside the new Raiders Stadium in Vegas where they honor their former players. So there's a Nixon brick, and we love having him on the show, even whether he's shaved or not. We still love him having him on the show, but he's been back from vacation.
Are you growing a goatee or something? What's this look?
I mean, listen, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I got back from Mexico last night at about 7 p.m. I didn't have a chance to shave, so I figured I'd surprise you and all your viewers with a little bit of a Christmas beard going on.
Nice.
Yes. Well, hey, we are surprised.
And here's the thing about Nix that you guys need to know. He is such a manly man that that like he'll shave in the morning, and if we're doing a show at night, he shaves again.
That's what
he shaves again.
That's
He's a 2-time-a-day shaver. This is a guy that can grow a full lumberjack beard in 1 week if he needs to. So don't mess with him. He's
got to shave.
Man.
When he comes on the show, he has to shave because they have to wear the makeup. You can't put makeup in the beard.
He can't make up his gray beard.
And they're in there trimming his hair and all this stuff. I'm like, this isn't a beauty shop.
No,
we're doing a pregame show.
It seems like a beauty shop.
It's not easy getting this already. I'm telling you, it's not easy.
Well, you heard those TV numbers. Why do we love football so much? What is it?
You know, it's funny. I've actually been thinking about that because I was, as I mentioned, in Mexico, and they couldn't really care less about football. Although everywhere we went had all the NFL and college games on at the restaurants. So I think they started to catch on even more down there. I don't know what it is. I think this country is just rallied around the sport of football, this gladiator-esque type of game. I mean, it's interesting because New Zealand, they catch on to rugby, and South America's soccer. Everyone kind of has their sports. Europe is soccer. but we just love our American football here. And I'm glad we do, because for me, it is the best sport out there. And I was trying to explain this to my boys a couple of days ago that it is the best sport. It's the best team sport that you can have. Why? Because it tests you in every facet of life.
Yeah.
I mean, mentally, to understand the playbook and the complexities of the game, emotionally, the wins and the losses, and how agonizing those can be with a field goal, an extra point missed, or a last second field goal. Like soccer, it's 3-0. Like you kind of know the game's going to be over, and whatever. And then the physical side, like there's no tougher sport. Yes, the hitting and everything like that, but then you think about when the sport is played, the bulk of the games are played from August to October, when it's hot outside, especially in the South. And it's hot. You're in these pads that weigh a lot and you're sweaty. Like, I don't know. For me, it's the best team sport. You learn so much. And that's why I'm thrilled to have my boys play. I'm glad I played it. And of course, America loves watching.
And we all grew up playing baseball. Dave, you grew up playing baseball. I played baseball. We all played baseball. And they used to call baseball America's game.
Right.
And it's still part of the fabric of America. And it was a game that was, that is big here. But what happened to baseball, and why baseball doesn't pack a stadium like an NFL stadium or a college stadium? 110,000 in Michigan Stadium on a Saturday afternoon.
I think it's the fact that you only have 12 college games a year, and you throw in, of course, bowl games and everything. You only have 12 of them, so it's not like you're playing 100 of them. I think just the fanfare, the fact that you back in 65,000 people close, and just the environment. I mean, baseball is awesome. Playoff baseball is fun.
Oh yeah, I love playoff baseball.
But you don't have the environment where you got the whole team, the whole crowd cheering and chanting and yelling, trying to throw an offense off or get them to draw an offside, a false start. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It is crazy how the fans get into it. And I think that's what makes it so fun. That's why I love taking my kids to the game. That's why I love going to games. Is because you get to participate in that fanfare. It's awesome.
What'd you think of that Alamo Bowl?
Oh man, I mean, could you have asked for a better showing from this BYU football team?
Probably not.
I mean, they absolutely dominated. And yes, I think the defense, what you would say, the defense dominated more than the offense, but the offense took care of business. What I love about this offense performance is BYU just lined up and rushed the ball on them. They just said, "Hey, we're going to cram it down your throat," and they did just that. You look what the performance that LJ Martin had with a couple of touchdowns, and they moved the ball well. But defensively, I mean, this was probably, I think, Jay Hill's best game from what I've seen here at BYU as a defensive play caller. And we always give credit to Jay Hill, but you saw the post-game comments from Gary Anderson. I mean, there's some guys, you include Kelly Papinga, Justin Enna. These are guys who have come from other programs, Gennaro Guilford, that brought all that experience and expertise, and they've thrown it all into this melting pot. And man, I wish I could go, and Kelly Papinga has invited me to come to some of their staff meetings, but I would love to go sit in there for a couple of days for a game week prep week and just hear what's being tossed around and the different concepts and kind of different schemes that they're thinking about. Because you saw the quote by Gary Anderson. He said they threw out 18 different looks in the first half and only repeated 3 of them. I mean,
it's crazy.
No wonder Shedeur struggled trying to get a beat on this BYU defense.
Yeah, NFL guys don't see that many different coverages in a half of a game.
No.
That many different alignments and pre-snaps. Some people were asking me this week, like, what I was most impressed with, and I told them I wasn't surprised that BYU out-physicaled them, but Colorado came to that game with so much team speed. Yeah. And I never felt like BYU was at a disadvantage speed-wise. What was there something that jumped out to you, something along those lines, or something different where you're like, wow, I was most impressed with this?
I think it was, for me, that jumped off the page was the emotion of this team. I think this team, and this bottles up this 2024 season, that everyone counted out this BYU football team. Everyone wrote them off. I mean, you look at BYU when they're top 15 in the country, they go on the road to UCF and their dogs in that game. Like, everyone felt like BYU was overrated, and that eventually they were going to lose, and BYU just didn't, of course, until the end of the season. And in this bowl game, you heard the players, they were frustrated that all throughout the bowl prep and at the activities, like, everyone was giving all the love and attention to Colorado. Yeah. And they used that as motivation. And that, I mean, the emotion they came out and played with, their hair was on fire, right? sometimes I wish we could have bottled that up and used that against Kansas or against Arizona State. But man, it was fun to see them come out and like we talked about, the biggest viewed game of BYU's history, and they just put on an absolute whooping of Colorado from the get-go. It wasn't even close.
Where do you think the Cougs will end in the poll here in a couple of weeks when the final one comes out?
Where I think they will, or where I think they should.
Tell us both. Give us both of those. Because 11 teams in front of them lost in the bowl game.
Yeah.
And they're 17th. So
they're 17. So naturally they should be a top 10. I think they are a top 10 worthy team when you look at their two losses being to Kansas, who had a great run at the end, and Arizona State, who gave Texas all they could have into overtime, double overtime. Those are your two losses. And the fact that you beat SMU, who, SMU didn't have a great showing per se, but, great season. I think they're definitely top 10 worthy, especially with the performance of the Alamo Bowl. Where do I think they'll land? I think for some reason they'll get shafted, as we've seen, and end at 11, maybe 12.
Yeah, maybe
which is
13.
still an amazing season. It's funny, we're talking about this BYU team getting shafted with a final ranking of 11 or 12, but I think they're 100% top 10 worthy.
Yeah, we were both saying before you came on that we thought they should be a top 10, but they'd probably end up around 12.
Yeah.
Which is, although I will say the narrative after that game all over the country has been, they probably should have been in the CFP. That's one of the best. That's either the best or the second best team in the Big 12. It finally was nice to get that acknowledgement, because I think that win was so impressive that people finally gave them the credit that they were due at that point. And so who knows what people will think.
You know what's funny, though, and you guys have probably talked about this, in the past years, I always kind of just said, who cares ultimately, right? The end of the year ranking, whatever. But we've noticed, especially with, you look at Miami as a kind of test case here, it matters, because this ranking is kind of, they use that as a gauge next year going into preseason rankings, right, where to rank people. And if you can start higher up in those rankings, in the top 15 or even the top 10, then there's more leeway there for you to go. If you do lose a game, you don't fall all the way down from 6 to 22. Right. You go from 6 to 14, right? Yeah. And then you can claw your way back up into that top 12. And so more than ever, these rankings matter. And when I say these rankings, even the preseason rankings. Yeah. Unfortunately for BYU, with everyone they've got coming back, I got to think this will be a top 12, top 15 team come August of next year when those get released. And that excites me, because once again, now you're positioning yourself to have a great run, and you have a little bit more room if you do slip up, that you're not going to be out of the conversation for college football playoff in that large bid, but you're still in the thick of it because you only drop a few spots. You're not into the 20s.
Yeah, for sure.
So this linebacking core, like we would acknowledge, and I've covered it for years and played, so I've been around it for almost 40 years. That linebacking crew that you played with you on one side and with Brian Keel on the other side, and then you had a couple of different guys you played with in the middle, whether it was Cam Jensen or it was Bauman, or I'm trying to think, did you have a third, or was it mostly those two?
Yeah, Sean Doman.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
IU. Yeah, we had a couple.
But you like Cam there in the middle. One of the greatest linebacking cores of all time, no question about it. You and Keel both played in the league. My junior year's team with Kurt Govea and Leon White and Kerry Whittingham and Marv Allen, those two outside guys played forever in the league together, starters in the NFL. To me, those are always those are the two standards. The team that you played with and that 84 team for backers here. We've had some individual guys that are phenomenal, right? Yes. But I'm talking about as a unit, right? Yep. So now here's Jack Kelly, Harrison Taggart, and Isaiah Glasker all coming back next year. In my opinion, clearly the best in the Big 12 coming back. Where do you think they stack up as far as linebackers in the history of the program? Because you followed it for almost as long as I have.
I think they're number one, honestly. I think you stack them up there at the top. Obviously, we'll see how the numbers shake out. How long their careers are in the NFL and kind of what they do. But I think as a collective unit, what's fun for me to watch is they all bring us something a little bit different. I mean, frankly, Kill and I had very similar games. And then, of course, we played in a 3-4, so a little bit different scheme. This is more of a 4-3. But you look at what Isaiah Glasker brings to the table, and his long ranginess, his ability to cover distance, and then quarterbacks trying to get the ball over the top of him. I mean, how difficult is that? We saw his pick against Colorado. Early in the season, it was against was it Kansas State, the one he returned for a touchdown, or Arizona maybe?
Yeah.
I lose track because he made so many plays. And then you've got On the other side, Jack Kelly, who we saw his closing speed, his ability to spy a quarterback and mirror him, and all of a sudden when that quarterback broke the pocket, he was on him like white on rice. I mean, it wasn't even close. And then of course you got Harrison Taggart, the big thumper inside. He just brings the wood. He just lowers his helmet, just crushes people, right? I mean, they all bring something a little bit different to the table, but as a collective unit, they just get the job done. And what I love about this coaching staff is they know that each one of those backers brings a little something different, so they dial up packages to take advantage of each of their strengths, right? I mean, it's not like they're asking Isaiah Glasker to go fill the B gap hard and become a thumper. No, they know that he's better in space. He's able to come up and force the run, but he's not necessarily a huge thumper. And they're not asking Taggart to go out in space and cover, right? They understand to keep him inside the box, get him to the hooks on the pass, but also bring him downhill and get after the quarterback. And so they dialed up coverages and blitzes and schemes to fit these guys' strengths and try to cover their weaknesses. And that's what's made him so special. And it's been fun to watch. And the fact that, assuming Jack Kelly, have we heard official news of whether Jack's coming back or not? We haven't heard if he's going, right?
No.
Yeah, and he didn't walk on senior day. Like, I think the plan all along is for him to come back. And they had talked with him earlier in the season. There's some things he wants to work on to improve his stock. So I think the plan is for all three of those guys to be back. And how about that? That's a nice core to start with, right?
Yeah, assuming there's no changes there. I mean, the fact they get another year together. And I'll say this about linebackers, that I had this luxury with Keel, who we played together for 2 years. You get to the point where you've had so many reps together that you understand how each other are going to fit. And you understand that when a blocker's coming, I can see Keel going to take on a blocker. I play with him so much that I know that he's probably going to take this and go inside. So let me cover up for him and see to the outside. And that's where you start to really work off each other. And so what's exciting is thinking that they've got this 1 year underneath their belt together. Now we go on to the second year and things get even better, right? And now they have even more confidence in the scheme and the system. And so they start to play a little bit more loose and they start to make even more plays. It just grows from there. And I think that's, for me, the exciting part, to get them to run it back, 1 more year.
BYU football linebacker, BYU TV football analyst David Nixon on the Wise Guys, presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. On the stream, Boyd from Leander, Texas, Neil from Tucson, Nick from Pensacola, Florida, Glenn's in from the Philippines. Good to have you guys with us. Our Wise Guys Awards are coming up here in just a couple of minutes, where the live streamers can vote in on who should be the winner. Moving forward, we talk about spring camp starting at the end of next month. Where does BYU got to go? Where's the focus to, do better than 11-2? Where's the focus to not lose that game in November that you can't afford to lose? What do you think?
For me, that should be the theme and the mantra, is finish strong. And that's something this team struggled with last year, losing the last 5. This year you lose 2 out of your last 3, so obviously you got better. But to take it to the next level, you've got great teams finish strong. And yes, BYU finished strong in the bowl game. So that's something that I'd love to see. And that's a great indicator. But they've got to find a way to finish there at the end of the season. A shout out to Ryan Phillips as well and his entire strength staff. The fact that this BYU team stayed as healthy as they did was a huge plus. And so I think you continue to harp on staying healthy and taking care of your bodies. But I think finishing as a team, I think that's where you have to improve. Offensively, Jake's just got to continue to make better and better decisions. And this is something we've always talked about on our Count on the Kickoff shows, is you look at the touchdown to interception ratio, and most quarterbacks that have been around BYU for a while and played in the system for a couple of years get better and better. So we expect them to get better in that regard. But this running game's also got to get going. And it'll be interesting to see who out of these backs decides to step up and be the guy. We saw Moa come in and have some flashes of brilliance. Rapati, when he was healthy, looked pretty good. LJ Martin also, when healthy, performed well. So that running back room and that running game just got to continue to get better. And in the passing game, you got stud receivers, just finding ways to give him the ball and get creative, and then just protecting Jake long enough and making sure that he makes good decisions, because there were a couple games there where he struggled and had some lapses and just got lazy, I think, a little bit. Yeah. And it cost the team.
Later in the show, we're gonna do a thing. We're gonna have some fun and do our Wise Guys Awards, and we're gonna let the fans weigh in on it. But we're gonna preview one of the questions. We're gonna ask everybody this, but we're gonna ask you first. So we're gonna ask you if you could pick an MVP of the assistant coaching staff. So just the assistant coaches. But you can't choose Jay Hill because that's just too obvious, right? So it can't be Jay. Plus, isn't Jay the associate head coach?
Yeah.
So he doesn't count. He's not an assistant coach. He's the head coach of the defense. And we're going to make it multiple choice. So would you pick TJ Woods, the offensive line coach, Kelly Papinga, the special teams coach, Justin Enna, the linebackers coach, or Gennaro Guilford, the corners coach?
One MVP. That's all you can choose.
You got to choose from those 4. And I guess you could throw somebody else. I mean, we haven't even talked about. I'm like, I know he's not a coach. I'm throwing Gary Anderson out there. I thought he was huge, right?
Yeah,
but he's not able to. You can't pick him.
What do you think?
I kind of feel like, listen, it's not because I'm biased. I'm a defensive guy, but with how the defense performed this year, I think you kind of have to give it to a defensive coach.
Okay. That whittles it down to 3 or 2.
Yeah, it's got to be Kelly Papinga, Justin Enna, or Gennaro Guilford.
So, I mean, our BYU special teams this year was the best special teams performance I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
right
at BYU. Yeah,
at BYU. And once again, you're not playing New Mexico's and Wyoming's of the world. You're playing Big 12, P5 schedule. I think it has to go to K-pop. I think from the special teams perspective. Now, if you almost said, "Hey, special teams is separate for some reason," throw him out. I think Gennaro, you look at the corners, Jacob Robinson.
What was 23 picks or 24 picks?
23.
23 picks.
Number 1 in the country. Like,
it's crazy.
I don't know how you don't give the secondary the game ball, or David
and I were talking about this before, Nixon, and we were saying, what about TJ Woods? And here's why. Here's the case for TJ. We're just throwing these different cases out, because K-pop, you gotta consider how good the special teams were, right? Gennaro, you gotta consider the secondary was lights out, right? Maybe the best secondary we've ever had as a whole in the history of BYU. But what TJ did with all of the injuries he had and with what he was given, right? And to lose Connor Pay for a month and to move Bruce Mitchell in and develop him. What he did with Caleb Etienne, a guy that were like, can this guy even play? Like he was at right tackle, to move him to left tackle and to have him be first team all Big 12. So all of a sudden I'm going, well, geez, maybe we need to give it to TJ. Like you could make a case for every one of those. What I love is that we're talking about assistant coaching staff and unique things that each of these guys did, and we could get into the analyst staff and the everybody played a role in this, and the people that we just talked about all did tremendous things this last year, and that's what it takes to win 11 games, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And listen, that TJ went through my head when he first initially asked the question. I thought that, yes, moving Caleb. Bruce Mitchell, guy we never heard of, who's converted D tackle, right?
Right.
The offensive line and all of a sudden played the way he did. And the way they protected Jake as well, no question. But I'm telling you, that defense.
Yeah, defense was lights out.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, when you number 1 in the country in interceptions, that's not an award that's just for the DBs. You got to get pressure on the quarterback. Right. I mean, typically most interceptions because he's got guys at his heels and he's got guys that have been smacking him in the face all game, where now he's just rushed and hurried to get the ball out on the next play because he just got put on his back the play before. So, linebackers and D line, they get some credit for those interceptions their corners get. So it's everybody's working their butts off to get those, and so that's why it's tough. I'll tell you what, it's a great sign that we're struggling to find the winner, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's pretty clear who was the one position group that was outstanding. In this case, you have 4 or 5 different position groups that just crushed it this year.
Yeah. And I think that what gives K-pop the edge, to your point, is not only was he coaching as part of the defensive staff and part, the rush ends, the outside backers and that, who did a tremendous job, but then also the special teams. So he gets a twofer, so we probably got to give it to him.
Now, votes are coming in on the stream. Hang on, guys. You're going to get a chance to vote here in a few minutes.
We could read some of these right now, but so D-line made the biggest jump. D-line coach, that's what Roy Wall's saying, right? And somebody says, Mark Johnson says, hey, K-pop without a doubt. And then Boyd Lake says, well, TJ Woods, massive positive effect on the offensive line in the career of several seniors, which is so true. And then he adds, Etienne is also an honorable mention All-American. And we were ready to throw him away. And then Howard Holmes says, Gennaro, the secondary was awesome.
Yeah.
And Conrad Monson says, I think they all did great, but K-pop had the biggest impact on games. He unlocked something this year in our honestly lacking return game, and it won us games. So yeah, I think in the end, we're all going to go K-pop because of special teams. Yeah. But I love this discussion because so many of those assistant coaches had such a big impact. And that's fun to have that kind of a discussion.
More questions on that coming up in just a sec. So when you have the league's number one defense, you have to have all these coaches, right?
Right.
You have to have this debate, or you're not number one. Speaking of number one, as Thailand rings in, Maryland, good to have you on the stream. College football's Final Fours here: Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas, Ohio State later this week. Who do you like to win it all?
I tell you what, after what Ohio State did to Oregon, I think it's got to be Ohio State. I mean, they were so dominating. You look at Jeremiah Smith, the freshman receiver. I mean, what? I think he's had 270 yards and 4 touchdowns in two playoff games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably my pick. I just don't. I'm just not impressed with Notre Dame. They get the job done. You know, and same thing with Texas. Texas looked great to start the game against Arizona State and kind of just fizzled out. I think my pick, in Penn State, I think Penn State will get exposed. So my guess is Ohio State, but I mean, that's the beauty of this 12-team playoff is, I mean, you never know, right? I mean, who would have guessed that the top 4 seeds would be out, right?
Yeah. Who do you? So let's go individual games. Penn State or Notre Dame? That's a matchup. What do you think?
Honestly, that's the tough one for me. I think both teams have their flaws. I'm gonna pick Notre Dame.
So you're gonna have Notre Dame in that championship game.
That
okay, and then you've picked Ohio State over Texas. Interestingly, Ohio State and Texas. Texas's defense literally has NFL talent in almost every position. And so I'm going to be interested to see, because I do think Texas is way better defensively than Oregon. The thing that surprised me is Ohio State did a much better job of just shutting Oregon down than I thought they would, right? And so I think the matchup between Texas's defense and Ohio State's offense, I'm pumped to watch that.
Yeah. They're great semifinal games. What's crazy is that it is the 4 blue bloods, right? I mean, look at these programs. There's no G4s that, Boise State didn't make it through, and it's interesting how it's shaken out. But
big names, they're all big names.
But at the same time, Texas was in the Big 12 last year. So besides that, there's no SEC teams there.
Yeah.
Once again, the parity is playing out with the NIL and the
how about no blue blood SEC team?
That's nice.
There's no Alabama. There's no Georgia. That's hard to believe, right? And Clemson's been a blue blood from the ACC, and they've been down a little bit. So the fact that there's no Georgia, there's no Bama, there's no Clemson.
There's no really South team. I mean, you count Texas as a South team, but there's no Southern type teams, which is wow, that's the hotbed of football in the country, right?
Yep.
Our BYU TV colleague, former BYU and NFL linebacker David Nixon on the Wise Guys, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and wiseguys.com. A couple of more questions before you hit us with your 5 top hamburgers of all time, which will get us all hungry at the end of this one.
I'm hungry right now. That's going to make me worse.
Your brother-in-law, Taysom Hill, how did surgery go, and how's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing well. I just talked to him at length a couple days ago. He's already on the rehab train. He's getting back. Surgery went well. This one's a little bit longer recovery, right? He did a number to his knee, unfortunately, on this one. So they're hoping he'll be back in time for the season. But you're looking like a September type timeline. But I'll tell you, if there's anything that's talking about Taysom is he beats all those timelines, right? Like, and we were talking about just that. He's like, forget it, I'll be back. And the same type of deal. His physical therapist gave him a time frame of when he could play golf, and he's like, yeah, go ahead and bump that up a couple of months. I'll be back.
Yeah, we'll see him out there.
He's a competitor, and he knows his body, and we've seen him come back from injuries time and time again. So, we talked about it. At his age, it came across his mind. He mentioned that, maybe this is it, but he also mentioned in the same breath that I'm having the best time of my life, right? I mean, he loves the Kubiak, the OC there in New Orleans. And the fan base loves him. They were chanting Taysom as they carried him off the field. I mean,
yeah.
And you've seen the stats when he's in the games and playing with the team. They're significantly more successful, and I think he adds this whole different element to him. And
I think they'd have been in the playoffs this year if he'd played the whole year.
Yeah,
in that division.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where injuries, they were injury riddled, and then of course Taysom's kind of just tanked him at that point. But he's on the rehab. He's going after it. He'll be back here in Utah in the next probably next month or two. He's going to stay in New Orleans to rehab and then make his way back out here. They have a home down there in Provo. And,
we see him over at the
we get to
hangout
go play
on occasion.
Yeah,
you need to come down.
This is the year to play Taysom in golf if he can't hit it.
I don't know how he's going to be in golf, but maybe we get the four of us out and go play.
Yeah, I like it.
Hey, another guy who's healthy, who has been healthy all year, Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, unbelievable.
12.5 sacks for his career high. He needed one more the other night to get a $250,000 bonus, and he got it in the first quarter. And he stands up and he's flipping dollar bill signs from his hands. What about Van Noy? What impresses you the most about Kyle?
I absolutely love this story. I mean, I saw Kyle this offseason too, and we were talking about, hey, what's your deal? And he's like, well, I haven't signed with the team, but hopefully back with Baltimore. And sure enough, he goes back and has his best career year. I mean, I will say for what you start to lack as you get older and older playing football, as far as speed goes and just the energy and the strength, you gain up here mentally. And in the NFL, that's how you separate yourself. Everybody's bigger, faster, stronger. Everybody's a phenomenal athlete at that level. The guys that are successful are the ones from a mental standpoint understand the game and understand how to take advantage of the game and how to get one extra step to where the ball is sooner to create a turnover or some big play. And so, when I got to the league, that was the biggest thing for me was, I can run laps around some of these older veterans. I'm faster than all these guys, but they were faster game speed wise because they knew where to go and they knew they could react that much faster. And so that's what you're seeing from Kyle Van Noy. He's seen it all. He's put every single pass rush move on a tackle that you could possibly do. and now he knows how to set these guys up and come away with sacks. And the fact that he got that sack, I loved it. I couldn't stop smiling because he's a dear friend and a fellow linebacker here at BYU and just an absolute stud and great representative of BYU. I mean, he's a great follow on Twitter. He loves BYU. He's a BYU guy. And it's fun to watch him kill him at the next level.
So fun. And 12.5 sacks is elite. Speaking of another guy that wears BYU on their sleeve, which I absolutely love when our guys get there. And Fred does really, too. Mm-hmm. And Puka does. I mean, those guys just like, hey, we're BYU guys through and through, and I love it. But this is the ultimate BYU guy. Our guy, Andy Reid. He's playing for NFL history. No teams won 3 Super Bowls in a row. And his Chiefs won the last 2. What do you think? Can they do it?
I do. And here's some parallels between BYU and the Chiefs right now. It's the culture that these coaches have built. And I look at what Andy Reid, they're winning games kind of barely. And we saw the same thing with BYU earlier this year too. But they have a winning culture that he's established there. And people buy in and you don't doubt. When you're down, you're like, we've been here before. We know our coaches instilled us in us that we're going to come back and win. He's got the confidence in us. We got the confidence in him. And you just end up going out there rolling and performing. And it's incredible. I love watching him. And this was one of the things I was thinking about this BYU team that gets me so excited for next year is the culture that Kalani's built. But it's not just Kalani. Frankly, it's the entire institution of BYU. Like you think about President Reese and Vice President Borking and kind of Tom Homo, the athletic department. You look at the entire football staff. Everyone has bought into this vision that Kalani set out and that the entire institution has set out. There's support everywhere across the board. And for me, I think that's what's exciting. Of course, you got fan support. Now you got donor support. Now money's starting to roll through, right? And everything's starting to click. And you have a special season like you had this year for BYU. And I only see this continue on an upward trajectory. I was talking to some fellow the team up north fans. And
I told everybody before you came on next that you live in the heart of Ute country.
I do. And they feel the exact opposite. And not that we need to talk about them on this show, but it's BYU has been there. But even last year on our 5-7 record, the same record they had, I didn't feel like desperation per se. Yeah. You're bringing back Jake, who's a young quarterback, and there was some optimism there. But for me, with where BYU is at right now and the support they have, and I mean, this is an exciting time to be a BYU fan. You got to soak it in. And it's funny. I think we don't take them for granted, right? We're grateful for these seasons because we've been in the past where, just last year, 5-7, losing season. So I think we cherish them even more. And it's fun that, hopefully I think where this program is headed, you're going to have more of these type of 10, 11 win seasons.
All right, I don't know how Vegas is going to respond, but the Knicks has said Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl.
There you go. Hey, by the way,
so we'll find out how that goes.
Before we get to 5 questions, so Sylvia is going to go opposite of you. Sylvia texted her. She says, I picked Penn State and Texas to win their games. So she's going complete opposite of you. But she does say, now she does add, I am so sorry about Taysom that he got hurt, and I am going to pray for him. Go Taysom.
Yeah.
I love that.
So,
thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Sylvia. Yeah, and listen, I've had a lot of outreach. I talked about that. He's, of course, had a ton of outreach. I think, I'll be honest, that helps. And when you come off of surgery, and even admitted to me, you come out of surgery, it's tough. Your leg's aching or your body part's aching, and the pain meds maybe haven't kicked in, and next thing you're thinking like, why am I even playing this game? And lots of bad thoughts go through your mind. I think all the support and any outreach and just showing whatever you can, it's always well appreciated. So not only Taysom, but any athlete out there, right?
Yeah.
Those are tough times coming off those injuries because you work so hard to be prepared to be able to play the sport you love, and then all of a sudden, 1 second later, it's snatched away from you. And so it's an emotional roller coaster, but those prayers are always appreciated.
Yep.
Good stuff. Your credibility now hinges in what you're about to offer mankind.
Yes.
Our 5 questions are presented by Strategy Square, delivering connection, clarity, and confidence in business and marketing strategies, owned and operated by a BYU alum who's helping the wise guys conquer the world. You can reach Chantal at strategysquare.co. Tonight, we're asking David to reveal his top 5 hamburger outlets of all time. Now, there may be more debate over what you're about to say in the next 2 minutes than anything you've said in the previous 35. But I know you stand behind your beliefs, and so lay them on us.
Yeah, this is the only top 5 there is. So everyone else watching, you're wrong.
Are you doing them in an order?
You going 5 to 1?
5 that you love out there?
I'll give you 5 to 1, but let me just go with the absolute worst burger there is, just to get out of the way, which is In-N-Out. Just so it's noted.
In-N-Out went on your worst list right out of the gate?
It's the worst burger ever created.
And here's the thing. I don't get the whole In-N-Out thing. All my friends from California, wait till In-N-Out gets here.
I love
Now
it.
In-N-Out's here. I'm like, okay,
I love In-N-Out.
it's okay.
Yeah, it's a top 5 worst.
Wow. Okay, I'll put that on the worst. Number 1.
Wow.
I'll be honest.
5,
I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming right out of the gate.
Hey, listen, I'll be honest. It's a little bit of a hot take, but I stand by it. Okay, so number 5, I'm going to go with of the chains, which I'll throw In-N-Out in there, sure.
It doesn't have to be chains, of course, but of the chains, number 5.
Yeah, of the chains. I'm going to go for me, a Wendy's burger.
Okay.
Is that, that's a small burger for number 5.
Okay.
Yeah, Wendy's. David and I like Wendy's. When we've been on the road, around the road doing games and stuff, sometimes we'll just get a Wendy's, a single cheese, everything. Nothing wrong with that.
It's respectable.
Yes.
Okay, number 4 is a local gin, and a lot of you have had it. Crown Burger.
Crown.
A Crown Burger for me. There's no Crown Burgers in Texas where I grew up.
Do you get the Crown Burgers? Crown Burger
with the pastrami on it?
The pastrami on it?
Yeah. You put a little. I mean, they got a little bit of everything. Yeah, there's
those
one
guys are
downtown.
great.
Yes,
it's a good spot.
Okay,
number 3. This is a little bit of a surprising one, but I'm going with the Habit.
And I like Habit Burger, and I love their fries.
Yeah, the fries are great. The Habit Burger. You know what a goat? Here's a little secret. So you guys know I get on these weird diets. One of them is the carnivore diet, and you can get 5 patties, just the patties, for like $7.
What?
So if you want to eat healthy, cut out the bread. Just ask for 5 side patties. It's like $7.
You eat all 7 right at the same time.
Side patties.
How do you even get your mouth over that?
Wow! You just eat them with a fork and knife.
Yeah, you get a fork and a knife and just cut them up.
And that's the healthy diet. Give me 7 patties. I'm eating all that.
It's the protein. Lots of protein, Dave.
That's when Dave, like, Nix and I were talking at the bowl
Wow.
game, and we both were like, okay, we're disgusted with what's become of us, and we were going to get lean. And he told me, do the carnivore diet. That's what he told me.
Okay.
So
I've done it several times.
Carnivore.
If you have any questions, reach out to me on Twitter, on X. I will. I'll give you some details.
Well, just get
half a cow and just eat it.
I'm down 3 since we talked. Just down 3.
Okay.
Now talking.
Yeah, and I got like 9 to go.
I can only wonder where we go from here after the habit burger.
All right, number 2. And this one is I'm putting it normally be my number 1, but we don't have any here in Utah.
Oh.
It is Whataburger.
That's a Texas thing.
Oh, Whataburger. Yeah, that is a Texas thing.
Some people say Whataburger. No, it's Whataburger.
On my mission, I was exposed to Fuddruckers for the first time.
Yeah, watch your mouth.
And I sat there and I go, can we even go in there and eat? Is it this what it's called? Can missionaries go into Fuddruckers and eat? And we did, but that was a Texas thing for me. And so was Whataburger.
Texas, yeah.
By the way, I'm counting if you go to like a Ruth's Chris and get a burger, like that's fantastic.
Yeah,
right? I'm
that's
counting
nice.
kind of your more fast dining,
Yeah.
quick serve.
Yeah.
And then my number 1 is, I think this is a clear number 1. And yes, it costs you $20-$30 by the time you walk out the door.
Wow.
But Five Guys. Five Guys.
Five Guys.
That's number 1.
It's a pretty clear number 1.
That's Gavin likes Five Guys. Yeah, he likes Five Guys. He makes me take him to Five Guys.
So Wendy's, Crown Burger, Habit Burger, if you're on the carnivore diet, Whataburger, and Five Guys.
It's like I said, it's not even debatable. So
I'm gonna throw a couple out there. So Boyd Lake says, what about fries and fry sauce at Little Acorn? I don't know where Little Acorn is, but what about Seek Hanneman, our buddy from Hawaii, and the Hanneman brothers with 7 brothers.
7 brothers are pretty good.
I've had that burger.
Yeah.
I get used to it a little more. I've only had it once or twice. So.
I like the hamburger at Chubby's.
Yeah, Chubby's has a good hamburger. Our friends at Chubby's do a good hamburger.
Yeah.
JCW's does a good hamburger. Yeah. Here's the one that I'm going to tell you guys right now. And Dave, I don't know if you've even had this, but it's not far from your house. It's in Sandy. It's its own place. It's called the Dog House, Haus. It's like just tiny bit north of 100. So it's like between 102nd and 103rd South on State Street in Sandy.
Interesting.
And it's called the Dog House. They're famous for all different kinds of hot dogs, but they make a burger and they put it on like 4 Hawaiian roll buns. That's the bun, like Hawaiian rolls. And it is cooked to order. And I'm telling you, if you go there and you eat a burger at the Dog House, you will put it at number 1. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
So the next time you're in a fight with your wife and you're in the doghouse, you should go to the doghouse and grab a sandwich. Is that what you're saying?
Haus Doghouse. So I think it's like German or something. And so you would think they would only be hot dogs, but their burger is like, everybody in my family would agree that sometimes we'll just take a drive up to Sandy, 30 minutes, and go to the Doghouse for a burger.
So DOG
Haus. It's
Dog
House. It's about 103rd South in State Street in Sandy.
All right. Well, we've learned a lot in the last couple of minutes.
4.3 miles from my house is saying.
There you go.
That's close enough to give it a shot.
Right by you. You got to give it a shot, and then I want to know what you think.
Nick says, I value your opinion and think a lot of you, but as I look at that list of all wonderful candidates, I'd still go to In-N-Out first.
No!
I just would.
So Joel Halverson says Five Guys is the best. Gary Johnson says Whataburger in the 80s was the best thing there was. And Boyd Lake mentioned Little Acorn. I don't know where that is. But just Carmel says In-N-Out, so.
Hey, I'll tell you, Fleming's has a great hamburger there in downtown Salt Lake, too.
You can
go.
All steak places are like that.
Sit-down restaurants.
We're not opening it up. I'm just saying.
You can go to Ruth's Chris and get a crazy hamburger.
I'm just saying.
You can go, but we're not counting those. It just has to be a burger place.
Yeah, I want to. I can get a Wagyu beef hamburger, right?
Boyd says the Little Acorn was and may still be on Highway 6 in the mouth of Spanish Fork Canyon next to Chevron. So
okay.
I'll make it down there that much, but it sounds like I need to.
That's like, and you guys know, you guys both from Tech. Dave served in Texas, McCann did, and you're born and raised there. Barbecue in Texas, the best barbecue places are all attached to gas stations down there. Yeah, and it's phenomenal. That's where it all starts.
Because they use some of the fuel to cook it. Yeah. Just soak that in some unleaded and throw it on the grill. Hey.
So what Mark Johnson says, I live in Sandy. I've not heard of the Doghouse. Mark, you need to go. I'm telling you guys.
Blaine, this is a revelation. I feel like I'm looking at it. It's across from Slackwater for those that are local to the area.
Yeah.
For Southtown Mall.
It's my tip of the night. And Angela Rasmussen says In-N-Out is out. All capital. Out.
Come on, Angela.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I'm not the only one that thinks this.
No, I know.
Kim's with you. She's like, Whataburger's good. Kim's saying Whataburger is good.
Bullseye says Brand X in Springville.
Brand X in Springville 20 years ago. So I don't think Brand X is there anymore.
My wife, just so everyone knows, my wife is from California. So yes, I'm going to be put in the doghouse for putting them as dead last.
You know, when she says you're in the doghouse, say, you know what? Let's go to the doghouse.
I told you this segment was going to be a problem.
Do you know what I'm talking? You know those Hawaiian rolls that they're just so good. The doghouse puts their burgers on Hawaiian rolls. How do you beat that? And it's so juicy, you got to take a stack of hamburgers or a stack of napkins with you to eat that thing.
We got to wrap up our food segment. We still have the Wise Guys Awards. Nix, thanks so much. We'll see you soon. Camp's next month, and so
you gonna come down to any basketball
enjoy your
games?
respite from us for a little bit, but we'll be back.
I'll keep growing this out, so next time I see you, it'll just be.
Well, I can't remember if it was
Grizzly,
Linda Murray
Nixon.
or somebody early on. It might have been. I think it was Sylvia said that she thought you looked pretty good in that.
Yeah, Sylvia said a lot on this show so far tonight. Shake Shack, there's in for Shake
my wife
Shack.
thinks as well. So that's
but BH's question, he's going In-N-Out, one of the worst, and you say Wendy's? Wow.
Yeah.
So Mark Lynch says Shake Shack for the win. Shake Shack for the win. And I kind of like Shake Shack.
What's Neil say? High Boy, great burgers in Independence, Missouri.
Missouri. Okay.
Chubby's, In-N-Out.
Boyd's saying Rudy's, great brisket in Springville.
Okay, now I'm hungry.
There you go. Now, you know what? I'm starving right now. We cannot go on with
Nix, this interview's over.
all right.
Say hi to your family.
Thanks, brother. Good to see you.
Thanks, guys.
That's David Nixon, our longtime friend and colleague at BYU TV. He makes our shows fun. And, man, he set off a firestorm with his time. I knew it was going to happen. You pick your 5 best hamburgers.
Maybe one of my best tips ever is for you guys to go to the doghouse and get a burger up.
Right out of the gate, he went. Right out of the gate, he just dismissed In-N-Out.
Yeah.
I'm like, is there never not a line around In-N-Out? Like ever?
I don't
You ever
understand.
not seen one?
Like, I'm okay with In-N-Out, but I am not sitting in a 1 hour line to go to the
I won't do that
drive-thru
either.
for that.
But I do like their fries and stuff. And I like their shakes. But
I do like their shakes.
you know, one of these days we're going to
Chick-fil-A
see an
has good
In-N-Out
shakes.
sponsorship over my left shoulder here. That's what we should see one
the
of these
doghouse
times.
should be sponsoring us after
Something should be after tonight. Yeah. All right. Look, we got the stream going here, and we're excited about it because now we're going to announce our Wise Guys Awards. And here's how we're going to do it. We're going to present a question and 3 options, and then we want you to vote on the stream. And you got to vote quick, and we'll try to get as many as your responses on the show as we can, and then we'll pick our winner together.
Right.
But we've got 6 or 7 questions here that are thought provokers, and then we'll talk BYU hoops. We got a lot to talk about here in the next little bit. First, and Nixon's awesome. That was a great interview.
Yeah.
It was so insightful. Okay, are we ready? The Wise Guys Awards.
Let's start with this. You want to start with the first one, or do you want me to do it?
I'll start with the first one. I'm just reading Five Guys is a month-long investment. Okay. All right. There's another. All right. That's enough for the hamburger talk. Okay. So for Wise Guys Award number 1, I'll ask it because I want to get your opinion right out of the gate.
Right.
The Offensive MVP Award for this team. Jake Retzlaff, who threw for just over 2,900 yards. He ran for 417, 26 total touchdowns, 12 interceptions. L.J. Martin ran for 723 yards, 5.2 per carry. Remember last year as a team, they were 2.4, something like that. 9 total touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns. Or Chase Roberts, 52 receptions, 854 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Of those 3, who is the offensive MVP? What do you think?
I want to know. I want the fans. To me, like, I'm biased. The quarterbacks, if they're decent, is always the offensive MVP because nothing happens without the quarterback. I mean, L.J. Martin was big. Chase Roberts is so important that he's coming back next year because he's a huge part of what they do. But if the guy can't, if you don't have a guy at that position to get the ball out to Chase Roberts, then you don't have anything. And so I have to go with L.J. Martin.
Well, here comes some of the votes.
Although in my house, where I did this poll earlier, 2 for 2 for Chase Roberts.
Here's a vote for Chase, LJ, Jake, LJ, Chase. There's a run of Chase.
Yeah, there's a lot of Chase. LJ Martin, great running backs are hard to come by.
It's interesting in that bowl game, Jake wasn't his best and Chase got hurt. And LJ had one of his best performances
and then
of the season.
Angela's also Chase, Joel Halverson, LJ Martin. Linda, Chase didn't get enough catches to be MVP.
Right, because remember, last year was right behind him.
But Linda, will you agree he needs more targets? And Old Zuby, LJ Martin. I like that handle, by the way.
Larry says, I think Laster wins the MVP. Laster's not on the list, Larry.
Yeah.
Stay focused.
There's an opportunity to vote for Laster in another category later.
It feels like there's a lot of Chase, but there's a lot of LJ here. I think LJ.
Yeah, so everybody doesn't, and nobody really agrees with me with Jake. Like only one or two say Jake.
Here comes a Jake.
Dave Simmons says Chase. Smurthwaite says LJ. Richard Smurthwaite, LJ Martin. Eat up the clock on the ground.
Yeah, he did do that. Here's another Chase from Judy.
Yeah. Kim says Jake.
Man, wait till we get to the next question.
Thanks for sticking with me, Kim.
The offensive MVP, Jake Retzlaff, LJ Martin, or Chase Roberts. In with a flurry here.
Jess says the LJ set up all the passing.
There's Jake, MVP.
We didn't put the offensive line in there as a group, but
no.
They deserve a lot.
We got individuals on this one.
That's good. Hey,
it feels like.
Do you feel like it's LJ or is it Chase? It's pretty evenly divided there.
The next vote in, LJ or Chase?
Who's the next vote? The next vote's the tiebreaker. Jake MVP.
Okay, now the next vote in.
The next vote for either Chase or LJ. Thanks, Neil.
And hard to pick one.
Wait, Boyd says Jake's leadership wins the prize. He's like, now all of a sudden there's a run of Jake.
All right.
There's a run of Jake. What's Angela saying?
She says hard to pick one. Says it was a team effort all year. That's great. In comes another Jake from Alaska, from Howard.
Yes.
Feel like LJ is going to get several MVP. LJ was the MVP of the bowl game.
How about that run that Jake just made, though, there?
That was a nice run. Got him right back in the mix. Okay, now let's go to the very next one.
The very next one that comes in, because now it's a three-way tie. Because
David went with LJ.
So Dave Simmons went with LJ, right?
Yeah. So we need some like Jeopardy music or something.
Next one in.
Is it Jake? Is it Chase? Is it LJ Martin? I have a feeling the next one's going to be LJ. But what if all of a sudden three come in for
Jake?
For all three of them, like one or the other.
Like bam, bam, bam.
Yeah. All right. Here it is.
What does Kim say?
Jake is going to have a banner year if he continues to improve on the schedule. So she's not really saying he's the MVP.
Well, she voted for him earlier.
She's making a statement.
Kim voted for him earlier because I know that Kim was hanging with me on that one.
Okay, here's a Chase.
Okay, there's a new one.
Here's a Jake and Boyd's voting twice.
Chase.
It feels like Chase got most of the votes.
Yeah, I think
Chase
we'll
it is.
Okay, you guys have spoken. I like, but there was all three sides of that one.
The Wise Guys offensive MVP is Chase Roberts,
as chosen by the live streamers. Okay, let's go.
Hey, look, we just picked up a couple of votes. That's nice.
So,
all right, now here comes a tougher question.
Yeah,
go for it.
Thank you, David, because we'd like to be MVPs. Defensive MVP. I think this one will be. I don't know. Like at my house, the two answers were immediate.
Yeah, I think this one's tricky.
Is it Isaiah Glasker, 70 tackles, first on the team, 14.5 tackles for loss, first on the team, 3.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, a pick six.
It's a great year.
Jack Kelly, this is hard, 51 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks.
Which led the
first
team.
in the team. 14 quarterback hurries, first on the team. An interception and 2 forced fumbles. Yeah, how do you divide between those two? Well, how about this? How about Tyler Batty? 59 tackles, 7 tackles for loss. For a defensive lineman, are you kidding me? 1.5 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 8 quarterback hurries. So who you got?
One of those three. Glasker, Kelly, or Batty?
Yeah, so Boyd Lake comes right in. Glasker. Mark Johnson says Glasker.
Jacob Robinson picks up a vote.
Yeah, well, we didn't have Jacob in there, but
he wasn't on the list, but he had a great year.
He's worthy. He was great.
He was great. The beauty of Glasker and Kelly is they're back next season. Yeah, and Batty's
as we mentioned about Tyler. Tyler's going to be in the.
There's another Glasker.
The prime dance pushes it to Glasker after he got that.
Oh yeah, you're right.
After he made that play.
Ooh, here comes 2 Jack Kellys, just like that. That Glasker Deion Sanders dance was fantastic.
Kim, are you saying Glasker and Batty in a tie, or are you saying Glasker first and Batty second? And then Sylvia says Batty.
Here's a Kelly by far.
Yeah, okay. old Zuby says Jack Kelly by far.
Batty,
Larry
Glasker.
Batty, Glasker. Are we tallying these? Holy
Neil
cow.
says, I think Glasker got the best stats.
Yeah, right now, Glasker's in the lead.
But Kelly's making a run.
But Neil's going to vote for Jack, even though he thinks Glasker has the best stats.
Okay, all right.
So Rick Healy says Jack.
Richard says, hey, this is tougher than the last one. I told you this was tough. He says Batty. Okay.
So
Kelly, hard decision. Here comes a chase. Hey, we moved past Chase.
Yeah.
A tie.
Yeah, Rebel Dog, you're behind. Chase already won the thing.
Come on, Rebel Dog.
Chase already won the thing on the offensive side, but he can't win the offensive. Kim's saying it's a tie between the two. That's why she put him both.
Okay. Robinson. Here's Jack Kelly. He's a game changer. He is a game changer.
Bullseye, I agree that people didn't even throw it at Jacob Robinson. And
you guys think this question's tough. Wait till you get to the next one.
Yeah, we got even tougher ones than this. Right now, Glasker's still in the lead.
Kelly's made a nice little charge.
And I've been trying to tally these. But
Glasker was outstanding. And you know what? I would give it to Glasker because of his primetime dance.
Judy says Isaiah Glasker. Mark says Jack Kelly's a game changer. I agree that he gets 3 extra points for doing Prime's dance. Yeah. For doing Dion's dance.
Boyd's got Batty firing things up in the locker room. That was all time. Yeah, that was something.
That was something. And Greg Norton says, got to be Zay. He doesn't mean Jay. He's got to be Jay. Jay is the MVP on the defense, but if you talk about Jay Hill.
Yeah. All right. Okay, should we close the voting?
We're going to close the voting on that one, and it's going to be Isaiah Glasker.
He was outstanding.
By the way, that was the unanimous at my house.
Yeah.
So.
Great. Okay, guys, here comes one. The special teams MVP.
Yeah, this one I feel is the hardest one.
Keelan Marion had 18 kickoff returns, 26.2-yard average, 2 touchdowns, All-American. Parker Kingston, 16 punt returns, 18.8 yards, 2 touchdowns. If the voting was after the Bowls, he'd been all Big 12.
Right. And by the
chance
way,
at All-American.
A good average for a punt return guy in the country is 9 yards.
Yeah, it was great.
Double.
And then Will Farron, special teams, 24 field goals, a BYU record, 16 consecutive makes, 41 of 41 point after tries, and he beat the Utes on a 44-yarder.
Yeah, so you got Keelan Marion, kickoff return specialist, Parker Kingston, punt return specialist, or Will Farron, the kicker. And so here we go. We got
Howard's still voting for the linebackers. We've moved on, Howard.
Yep.
Glasker won that. We have an early vote for Farron.
We knew what you meant about Robinson, Bullseye. We knew what you were saying.
It takes a couple seconds for people to come in.
So wait a minute here. No, so Howard, we're past Glasker now. He already won. So we got Will Farron. We got to vote for Will Farron.
And the next, hey, by the way, the next question is tougher than this one. Yeah. So Farron.
There's Parker. You got Parker, K-Pop, and Will Farron from Larry Wynn. Will Farron from Sylvia. Will Farron from Maryland.
For the Ute game alone, Mark says.
Farron hands down, says JL Halverson.
Bullseye has swung back around, all 3 of them.
Yep.
Kingston, and he just wins. Best smile. Tied with Will Farron. He has to be Farron first. So Angela worked through that whole thing right in her comment.
Yeah, I like how she just typed it out while she was thinking. So that's what Angela did.
Hey, look, there's a Davis Dart shout out from Greg.
Thank goodness Davis Darts. That guy, amazing. Go Darts.
Give Will some love. We're working on getting Will on this show, by the way, in a couple weeks.
We'll get him on.
This is tough. Farron was so consistent.
You realize that David Nixon and Brian Logan, who claim that kickers are not people, have actually designated Will Farron as a human.
Yeah, they came back around.
He's a person. He's absolutely a person.
And by the way, on the podcast, we're reading off the live stream. We're reading the votes, and so that's why it might sound a little jointed.
Old Zuby says Farron was so consistent. This is tough.
Yeah, Jess says
David
Will
Simmons
for the
says
win.
Farron. Yeah,
I think it's a runaway.
It's a runaway for Will Farron. And by the way, I don't remember a kicker in BYU history more reliable than Will Farron. Do you?
No, there was a time when Oldroyd was automatic, and he was a finalist for the Lou Groza.
Yeah.
And Farron should have been closer to the Lou Groza Award this year.
Yes, absolutely.
The beauty is Farron is back next year.
Yeah.
And so anytime inside the 50, you're in scoring range.
If Will is not preseason first-team All-American next year, I don't know who is.
Yeah.
When BYU crosses the 40-yard line, so I'm talking – and anytime it's going to be 57 yards in, so they cross the 40-yard line, 56 yards in, I just assume he's going to make it. I think we just all go, yeah, well, there you go. There's points.
Yeah.
So.
All right, Will Farron is the wise guy's runaway winner as the special teams MVP.
Okay, so now we're going to move to the play of the year. This is also not easy.
No, none of these are easy.
And it was divided in my house. So we're going to start with this. Darius Lassiter's touchdown catch with no time left to beat Oklahoma State 38-35. Or Will Ferrell's 44-yard field goal to beat Utah 22-21. Or Parker Kingston's punt return against Kansas State, where he fumbled it, picked it up, ran all the way across the field, and basically ran 150 yards for a touchdown.
Now let's just think about the 3 plays that you just put back out there. Mm-hmm. In their own moments, they were spectacular.
Yes.
Let's see. We witnessed 2 of them right in front of us in that stadium where you just felt, are we seeing this? Did this just happen? And they were watching in the green room when Farron beat the Utes on a 44-yarder, which capped a whole chain of bizarreness.
Yes.
So the question becomes, Lassiter, Farron, or Kingston?
Yeah, and Mark Johnson starts off with, put the ball anywhere, I'll make it, says Will. That was what he said before the Utah kick.
That's right.
Kelly Papinga said, where do you want the ball for the game winner? He goes, put it anywhere, I'll make it. It's going in. How about that? Indrid says Farron. So Howard says Jake. Wait, Howard.
Howard, we moved on.
We're beyond Jake.
What's going on up there in Alaska?
M. Morris says Farron.
Oh, here come some votes.
Mark Johnson says field goal kick for impact, return for fun.
Richard says Lassiter's catch. Boyd says Lassiter's play.
Always has to be number 1, says Mark Lynch.
Yeah.
Great moves after the catch made it special. Smurthwaite says, yeah, these are coming in. Kingston, says Rick Healy.
Yeah, K. Porter, Lee Johnson.
Linda Murray says Parker Kingston. Sylvia Texler says Parker Kingston's punt return. David Simmons back to Farron's kick.
Yeah.
K. Porter, Lee Johnson, no, Lee's retired.
Yeah, move on. K. Porter, stay focused here. We're in our
Jess
contest.
Comrell says the punt return was electrifying. Ruth Strain says Darius Lassiter's great catch and move.
Parker Kingston had the best play. Now, remember Kingston, it started when he botched the catch, and so he's literally running backwards to get it, and then he corrals it, and then he heads over to the BYU sideline, and then he just keeps going, and the crowd went from, oh, are you kidding me? What have we done to whoa, and then all of a sudden they're just like he's going to, and you know, and it was still a game then, right? This is when against Kansas State, when he did that, you just go, you know what? Yeah, this game's over. But then I think of the crowd reaction when Lassiter got in the end zone to win the game against Oklahoma State. Yeah. They needed a touchdown, and they got it 38-35. Here's some more votes. So
Indrid's like thinking out loud and says, I love the Utah win more, but Lassiter's catch was a better single play. So Angela's saying Kingston because he did it against Colorado, but you're not talking about the Colorado punt return, right? You're talking about the Kansas
we're talking
State
about Kansas State.
Right, because the Kansas State was one that they dropped.
It was like 140 yards.
The one against Colorado was pretty awesome too.
Yeah.
JL Halverson saying Farron beating Utah is always great.
I like Greg. Anything that takes down the U has to be it, Mr. Farron. Well, Farron's coming on strong, but this is awesome. This is back and forth because all 3 were so. In their moment, they were so huge.
Such big plays. I'll never forget that Darius Lassiter catch. I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now.
Like, how is this happening?
First of all, how did he get open? Secondly, how did he make that guy miss? So right now, Farron's slightly in the lead.
The kick to beat the Utes?
Yeah, the kick to beat the Utes. And I think that's because of who it was. There's Judy Austin, Farron kick. Craig Norton, anything that takes down the U has to be it. Mr. Farron. What's Bullseye saying? That's just below where I can see.
Bullseye saying Farron, clutch kick.
Okay, so Farron's starting to pull away here. Howard, what are you saying, Howard?
I just got a text from Jimmer. He'll be on the show on the 27th.
Nice.
Looking forward to that.
The game-winning kick over the Utes puts Will Farron over the top, so Howard agrees. Okay, so we're on a streak now where Will's taking over, and Kay Porter says I'm old. Sorry, that's why she's talking about Lee Johnson. Well, if you can't be that old, Kay, because Lee Johnson's my kicker.
All right, we ready to announce the winner?
And Mark Johnson, you're right. What a year for spectacular plays. 4 combined kick and punt returns for touchdowns, amazing field goals, amazing catches. Yeah, what a great year. Farron takes the lead on that one. So Farron is going to be our play of the year. The Will Ferrin 44-yard field goal. Put it wherever you want it. It's going down the middle for the 22-21 win over the Utes.
All right, so that's back-to-back wins for Ferrin.
Yeah.
Special teams MVP, field goal to beat the Utes. And now, you know what? Just when you thought there couldn't be any tougher questions,
yeah,
here comes some more.
I thought this was an easy one, but I bet it's not going to be.
You know what? There's significance with all three of these. One is, sticking it to the team up north. The other is where it's taking us.
Yeah.
And in front of the largest audience in program history.
Yeah.
And the other one was what got us in the top 20 and on the map.
Yeah. So
go for it.
Yeah, so here we go. Biggest win. Is it the 38-9 win over Kansas State, who was number 13 at the time? And you're right. It made BYU's statement that said, we're here. We're going to compete in the Big 12. Is it that one? Or is it the 22-21 win on the road at Utah that kind of quieted down the team up north? Or is it the exclamation point on the season, 36-14 domination of number 23 Colorado in the Alamo Bowl? So Kansas State, Utah, or Colorado? Which one is it? David Simmons says he'd give up the other two to beat Utah.
Well, we understand that.
And you're asking when we're going to have Coach Pratt on to basketball. Mark
either
Brown.
next week or
baseball.
the week after.
Yeah, we'll have him on.
So we're already in the works with that one. Amber Whiting will be with us next week too. So, and let's go back as people are thinking about this.
So right now it's like we start off with Utah, and I wondered if people would think that.
Yeah, because that's huge. It's because it's them. But you know what? Here comes Ruth comes in with Colorado win. The Colorado win was so convincing in front of so many more people than ever saw BYU beat Utah.
Colorado win. Ruth, I'm with you. And then Angela joins with you, Ruth, and says, from a national perspective, no question, Colorado. So we got 2 for Colorado, 1 for Utah. Exclamation point on the season, says Old Zuby. So that's Colorado. Another one for Colorado.
Richard's
so
got Alamo Bowl, big statement win in front of prime time.
Was sweet. Boyd Lake says has to be the Alamo Bowl, right? Greg Norton says the exclamation point, eyeballs. So Greg Norton's agreeing. It's the Alamo Bowl.
Here's another Colorado. Interesting. A win over Utah is a win over a crappy team. I vote for the Alamo Bowl. Okay, bullseye.
Bullseye. So
there's another Colorado. I had no idea this would be a Colorado runaway.
JL, Colorado win, a statement. That's 7-1 right now.
Maybe we don't fully appreciate the significance of pounding a team on primetime ABC after Christmas. And what that means moving forward.
And Linda makes another good point about it. So Linda says, Alamo Bowl win was huge. So much pressure to play well with all the hype for Colorado. Huge win to end the season after those losses. Because they had those 2 losses and everything seemed down. Then they finished with back-to-back wins, Houston and Colorado, to put an exclamation point. That's a good point, Linda. So it's a runaway.
Mark says Colorado, even though I was born and raised in Colorado Springs, but we'll take any Utah win. So, okay, we can appreciate that.
Yep.
But the Alamo Bowl, trumping the 22-21 win in Salt Lake, and really the Kansas State win was what made BYU believers, right? You win that game in your Big 12 home opener. Mm-hmm. They're picked to win the league, right up there with Utah, and the way they dismantled them. They dismantled Kansas State like they dismantled Colorado, only it took a little longer to do the dismantling.
They beat the crap out of Kansas State, and it happened just before halftime. But they beat the crap out of Colorado from the opening kickoff on. So
there's 2 more Colorados.
Yeah, Colorado only possible if we beat Utah, though. I get it. Shorts all year. I'm with you. Shorts all year. Colorado.
ABC commentators got heat from the BYU fans for their poor reporting on the actual game. The Colorado win may get us a top 10 finish.
Hey, Calvin Porter, I think Kansas State, it's where it all started.
Yep.
So and that was the point we were making with that one.
Shorts all year, 8 million viewers.
And Boyd, you're right. That might get us a top 10 finish. 8 million viewers. So... okay, we'll close that one out. Close the voting on that.
That's not even close.
Colorado in a runaway on that one. Okay, just 2 more in this. The biggest offseason acquisition so far.
Is it Chase Roberts? Okay, cleanse your palate because we're done on the exciting game.
We're done with Colorado. That was a killer.
Is it Chase Roberts? Is it Hunter Clegg, the edge rusher who had committed to Utah, got home from his mission and then decided, you know what? And his quote was great. BYU's not the same BYU as when I went on my mission. Yeah. And he's all in now. He could be a starting edge rusher. Keanu Tanavasa, defensive tackle. Of those three, the biggest offseason acquisition. Now, we put Chase there because Chase could have gone in the portal. He could have tried to go into the NFL. He has a year of eligibility. And just before the bowl game, he announced he was coming back. Prior to that, we had said on this show that BYU's biggest offseason acquisition would be to retain Chase Roberts.
Right.
Now they might get Lassiter back too, and now all of a sudden you got both of them.
Right.
And so that's good news. But of the three, is it Roberts, is it Clegg, is it Tanavasa? And our first vote for Tanavasa coming in. Now, here's another one and another one. Tanavasa is, I think, in 19 starts with the Utes. The anchor up there in that defensive front. He harassed BYU on November 9th. We're going to show those highlights on after further review when we get back on the air. And he's a guy they need in the middle of that interior defensive line. And I think as you see the votes coming in, I think a lot of people agree.
Yeah, right now it's a guy like Kevin Porter, Tanavasa, because it really hurt the U. Richard says Tanavasa. So Tanavasa is 4 now, 1 for Hunter Clegg and 2 for Chase Roberts. Jack Kelly, Todd Kelly says, got to go with Jack Kelly. Well, he was coming back. So.
All right. Chase.
Angela says Chase because he and Jake have chemistry, which is a good thing. He's a known entity.
Sylvia's in with Chase.
So we're 4 for Tanavasa, 3 for Chase, 1 for Hunter.
It's not fair for Hunter because he's been on a mission and hasn't played for a while, but Hunter's legit.
Another 1 for Tanu.
Keanu. Sounds like a great talent.
The most fun.
Tanavasa was in our backfield all night. Well, he was back there quite a bit.
So Linda's saying she's going to take Tanavasa, but Chase would be her number 2. Tanavasa was in our backfield all night. Yes, he's a really good guy. He's a block eater up front too.
Tanavasa, because not only is he good, but he hurts Utah by jumping to us.
So Tanavasa
There's
starting
another
to pull away.
one. A couple more.
Yep, Tanavasa. So he's up in Tanavasa just went into double digits. Chase is at 4. Hunter Clegg, not fair. I think we're going to really love Hunter Clegg next year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
but we can vote for him next year when we talk about the defensive MVP if he has that. Here's another one for Chase.
So Chase is at 5 now. Another one for Chase. He's at 6.
Greg says Keanu, but my daughter voted for Chase, so there's a vote for 2.
Okay, so we're going to
we'll bring
give
the
one
family
to Keanu
in.
and we'll give one to Chase.
Great to have the Nortons on the Wise Guys.
Yep. So right now we've got 12 votes for Keanu. We've got 7 for Chase and 1 for Hunter Clegg.
Yeah, I think we can.
Should close out the
I think
voting
we
on
should
that?
close it out.
And we'll call it. We're going to call it like they do on
election
We're going
night.
to call this state, and we're going to call it for Keanu Tanavasa.
It's not too close to call. It's a clear-cut Tanavasa. We're excited. He was on Sports Nation the other day. A wonderful personality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And is
and coming for all the right
great
reasons. And I love that his dad and he made it very clear it wasn't about money thing. It was where he wanted to be, which I love. So
here comes the grand finale, and this one's there's a debate behind every name.
Well, and remember, we've had this debate, but we didn't keep score.
Right.
So now you have
so
your
we
chance
start from
to
scratch.
Yeah.
Nick's teased it a little bit. The assistant coach, most valuable player. Now Jay Hill is the associate head coach and defensive coordinator, so he's not. He's exempt. Mm-hmm. And Gavin's exempt because he's your son,
right?
Because this is a public.
But we all know Gavin had to kind of take over and do a lot of stuff when Jay was out.
Yes, we do. Okay, so the assistant coach MVP. You want the candidates?
Here we go. T.J. Woods, the offensive line coach and the run game coordinator. We talked about in the conversation with Dave Nixon about what he did for this offensive line with multiple injuries and how he transformed ETM. He's one. Justin Enner, the linebackers coach, who coached those 3 linebackers we had that discussion about, who are all coming back next year and we're one of the most productive groups in the country. Kelly Papinga, the special teams coach, who helped coordinate and orchestrate all of this unbelievable special teams play this year. And then Gennaro Guilford, the cornerbacks coach, who coached up that secondary in those corners, who led the nation in pass interceptions this year.
Yeah, 22, 23 of them. This is no easy debate. Coach Woods is the first one in. Kay Porter's in with Coach Woods. And the running game was much better.
We got Coach Woods. We got K-Pop.
K-Pop with the onside kicks and fake punts and kick returns and punt returns. Nixon, by the way, voted for K-pop.
Yep, he voted K-pop. We made a really nice case for every one of them. Larry Wynn says K-pop and Connor Pay. There you go. Justin Enna. We got to vote in for Justin Enna.
Think about that linebacking core. They made all the tackles.
Another one for K-pop. This is special teams were amazing. Lyndon Murray says Gennaro.
Yeah.
Cornerbacks were phenomenal. Another one from Sylvia for K-pop.
Boyd's got Woods.
What's nice is this is being spread out. I love that it's being spread out because there was such good coaching.
How about 3 straight for K-pop?
Yeah, K-pop 1, 2, 3 more.
Coach Woods, but this needs to be like K-pop. This needs to be like Pop Warner, where everyone gets a trophy. Because, well, think about it. It's the number 1 defense in the Big 12. We never thought in a million years would be saying that after last season. But that's what BYU put together. Here's another TJ Woods. First time in a long time our O-line was this good.
Yeah.
And to Coach Woods' credit, there was a lot of adjusting on that line with Connor Pay out. A couple other guys got banged up.
Well, they had a rotating cast at guard this year with the injuries in and out. Connor Pay missed a month. Moving ETN from right tackle to left tackle. Yeah, absolutely TJ Woods deserves some votes on this. And he, right now we got K-pop at 8, TJ at 4, Justin Enna got a vote, Gennaro Guilford got a vote. I think
K-pop has the edge because when special teams plays work, they're fantastic. Like that and Jay Hill has a lot to do with the whole operation, right?
Everything,
Kalani and those guys. But the onside kick at the Alamo Bowl, none of us saw that coming. And they executed it, and Ethan Slade's got the ball, and they're running off the field. Yeah. It's like, fake punts. We all celebrate those. The fake field goal. Remember the snap underneath? Yeah. All that stuff. A lot of that K-pop and his group get credit for. So those are the wild plays to remember.
Judy Austin says K-pop. Greg Norton says all 4. But if just one, it's got to be Coach Guilford, nation's leaders in picks.
Yeah,
so
good point.
We gave Guilford another vote there.
And Guilford's corners and the safeties and the linebackers and the linemen all had picks.
Yeah, which is wild.
I mean, Batty had 2 or 3 himself.
He had 3. Yeah.
And I remember Mangelson got one off the helmet at Baylor. Everyone was getting picks.
What a great defense this year.
Here's TJ Woods.
Mark Johnson say TJ Woods?
Yeah.
Okay, so TJ's got a 5 now.
All right.
Okay, I think we can close the voting. We got K-pop, who's got 10 votes now. TJ Woods has 5. Justin's got 1. Gennaro has 2.
Here's another for Woods, and he should have bonus points.
So he goes up to 6
for the elite honor code approved mustache. Do we give him bonus points for that?
You get bonus points for a mustache?
That's what Mark thinks. You get bonus points for an elite honor code approved mustache.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
It's closer than maybe we thought it would be, right? What's Lyndon Murray saying there?
Amazing to have so many great coaches to choose from.
And we were talking about this before we came on the air, and it's just like so many other people too. We talk about Gary Anderson and the impact that he's had. Chad Kahaha, who's helping with the rush ends on the defensive side. Matt Mitchell, who nobody even hears about, who's coaching the quarterbacks on the offensive side. That receiving group had a phenomenal year with Fesi Sataki coaching that group. Kevin Gilbride, I think, had a big impact on the run game with his tight ends this year. Did Aaron Roderick called a beautiful game?
I thought he called his best game of the year.
In that Colorado game.
Yeah.
And behind the scenes, guys, we talk about Gavin and the work he does as the primary defensive analyst and working with that group over there. It is a huge group effort. And that is a coaching staff that's got – Kalani has created a phenomenal culture in this coaching staff. And that culture, it filters down to the players. And the reason they're getting these high, big-name guys to come in is because guys want to come play in this culture. And that's how you get it to Anavasa. That's how you get a Clegg to decide coming back from his mission, this is where he's going to come. That's how you get Jack Kelly to transfer down here.
Yeah.
That's how you get Taggart to come from Oregon, right?
John says Woods' twin brother is the dad on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. He just might be.
He might might be.
Hey, that's our first ever Wise Guys Awards. It was fantastic. Thank you for your participation.
And by the way, Kelly Papinga won it in a close race over TJ Woods.
That will be this will be a yearly tradition, and it's fun to hear from everybody. The Cougars are heading to the playoffs. Let's run over that real quick, and then we'll head down the stretch with some campus notes. We had an awesome show tonight. Chargers are at the Texans. By the way, did you know Keaton Slova's still getting paid by the Texans? He's on the practice squad.
Yep, that's so good.
So now they're in the playoffs on CBS on Saturday, and Van Noy is at home with the Ravens against the Steelers on Prime. The Ravens have a legit shot. He's going for his third Super Bowl ring.
They're so good on defense, and he is a big part of that. Yeah. So love what Kyle's doing. He's our good friend. Sunday, the Broncos and Zach Wilson at the Bills. The Broncos looked great the other day, but did Kansas City even care? I don't think they even tried.
No, I don't even think they tried. By the way, I saw a funny thing on social media that Zach Wilson got to the playoffs before the Jets. So congratulations, Zach. The Packers, Zane Anderson, Chris Brooks, who was at a busy day the other day. They're at the Eagles on Fox. Not sure if Hurts is going to be back. He's still in concussion protocol, so we'll see what happens there. Michael Davis and the Commanders are at the Bucs Sunday night on NBC.
Yep. And then Monday night, the Vikings with Max Tooley. He's on the practice squad.
So he's getting paid to be in the playoffs?
At the Rams. Puka Nacua is not on the practice squad.
No.
He's one of the best receivers in the league. That one's on ABC on Monday night. So.
Some key Cougars in play in the NFL. Yeah. Van Noy, by the way, and we talked about it with Nix, career high 12.5 sacks this year. Got a $250,000 bonus with one more sack against the Browns in the first quarter of Saturday's game. And we certainly salute Van Noy and wish all the Cougars the best of luck in the NFL playoffs. There is a big game tomorrow night at the Marriott Center. It's big because of what happened last week with men's basketball. Houston beat BYU 86-55 on Saturday. Out-rebounded the Cougars 37-24. They got 15 offensive boards. Yeah. Was 15 too many under the circumstances, and BYU just got, as Kevin Young said today, they got their butt kicked.
Yeah, and Yegor Demon had just 3 points. You wrote an article in Deseret News about him today.
Yeah, I got it with Timo Saralainen,
right,
who is the last European star to come over, highly touted and all that stuff, with a lot of Euro experience, and we talked about the difference between the European game and the American game, and what gave Timo the most trouble, what's giving Yegor the most trouble, is the speed of the American game.
Yeah.
The passing lanes have closed against these good teams. Shots are now rushed. Defenses are different. And Yegor's just outside of himself. 3 points against Houston.
Yeah.
He's had 13 points in his last 78 minutes of game action against Providence, who got in his face, Arizona State, who got in his face, and Houston, who got in his face. And you know what Texas Tech's going to try to do tomorrow? Get in his face.
Yeah, the one thing Texas Tech won't be able to do that Houston, in my opinion, is the most physical guard line in the league. And so not only do they have the quickness, like in Texas Tech will have that kind of quickness like Providence and like Arizona State to get in those passing lanes. And that's one adjustment. When you go on the road to Houston, not only do they have that quickness that we're talking about, they're crazy physical. They just get up in you. They bang you. They knock you off of your route. They push you further out from the rim than you're used to be. You start your offense 10 feet further out than you want to start it. And you know who played great in the game? Trevin Knell. Trevin was the only guy that seemed like it didn't faze him. But remember, Trevin Knell went through a whole season of that last year. Yeah. He knows what to expect. He's figured out how to get a shot off. So Yegor's going to have to make an adjustment to not only the speed, but the physicality in this league. And it's the most physical league in college basketball.
That switch has to flip. And Kevin Young today in his news conference said he wants the guys to think less and play free.
Yep, just play free.
And that includes Dallin Hall, who struggled as well. Both Yegor and Hall had tough games. They beat Arizona State last week by 20. Richie Saunders had 30, a career high. And it's interesting when you get a career high and then all of a sudden you realize, hey, wait a sec, not every shot's going in the next game. Yeah. He struggled against Houston.
Yeah.
But what matters is what happens tomorrow night. BYU's 10-3. They're 1-1 in the Big 12. Texas Tech is 10-3. They are 1-1. 7:00 Mountain Time on ESPN Plus. Pre-game show starts at 6 on BYU TV. The Red Raiders statistically are the best shooting team in the country.
Yeah.
So Darian Williams at 18 in their blowout at Utah on Saturday, 93-65. This one is going to be a test, but here's the thing. They're a quad 1 win.
Yeah.
You win this game tomorrow night, it doesn't matter what happens Saturday.
Right. And you know what? Who's going to go in and beat Houston? It doesn't matter whether you lose by 30 or lose by 1. Teams are just going to go in and lose at Houston. They have the longest home win streak in the country. There's a reason for that, right? It's a crazy environment. They're crazy physical. They're crazy athletic, right? So you can right the ship immediately. That's the beauty of the Big 12. Win at home. Protect your home court. Get a third of your games on the road. You're in the NCAA
Remember
tournament.
last year they lost 8 league games and were a 6 seed.
Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame. Now they're going to be at TCU on Saturday at noon on ESPN2. Not quite as crazy an environment. A very good team.
Yeah, they're all good. Yeah. This is a bounce back. Starting tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, it's interesting because you know what Richie got the treatment of in the Houston game? He got superstar treatment from Houston's defense. I mean, he's coming off that game where he went nuts, and they treated him like a superstar. And they were there on the catch. They were roughing him up. And so you know what that means? That means that somebody else needed to take some pressure off. And
they didn't.
And the somebody else's didn't take some pressure off.
No, tomorrow night, what I want to see is Yegor hit a 3 early.
Yep.
He's missed 13 in a row. Just do it to just be able to exhale. Dallin Hall's got to take the ball and drive to the rim early.
Right.
Get those two guys going and then alleviate some pressure. And then Richie can do his freelance thing.
Yep.
When he had his 30 against Arizona State, they were from all over the place.
And he runs the floor and he picks up stuff and puts it in, and they ran some stuff for him. But everybody else has to be playing well or he'll get doubled and they'll pay attention to him.
And they're going to rebound tomorrow night.
Yep.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to rebound tomorrow night. AP Top 25 out today. Iowa State's 3. Kansas is 11. Houston's 12. West Virginia's 21. Ole Miss, by the way. Remember BYU played Ole Miss, got beat by them in overtime down in Vegas over Thanksgiving. They're number 23. And so, you know what? Keep the Rebels up. Keep the Rebels up there. That doesn't hurt BYU.
They can win all they want. They're like SMU in football, right?
Yeah, why not?
I'll tell you, that Iowa State team, that's the one other team I look at and I go, oh, man, they're just as physical as Houston is.
Yes, they are. Baylor, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, and Arizona all receiving votes. And there's some big games this week.
Yeah, Tuesday, Texas Tech at BYU. We talked about that. Cincinnati's at Baylor. And then Saturday, BYU's at TCU. We mentioned that. Iowa State at Texas Tech.
Big one.
On the road. That's a big one. Kansas at Cincinnati and Houston at K-State. K-State's another. I mean, every team in the league's physical, but that's to go on the road. You know, to play Kansas State at their place is not an easy one for Houston.
Jimmer's been nominated for the 3x3 Player of the Year after becoming the first American to become the world's #1 ranked 3x3 player. Voting wrapped up yesterday, so we'll see how they release it and how he did. As he texts us live here on the show, he'll be on with us on the 27th and talk about he's on the mend. We'll talk Cougar hoops. We're also going to talk about what he's going to do on that cruise. He's going to be given 3-point shooting lessons on the cruise ship this spring. And so we'll talk about Jimmer at sea. So Jimmer will be with us on the 27th. How about Debanza? This thing fascinated me.
Yeah, so member of the USA Under-17 national team. So AJ was nominated among the 5 finalists for USA Basketball 5-on-5 Male Athlete of the Year.
So who else is in that group?
Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Michael Brown.
That's insane.
That's nuts.
AJ's in that group, nominated for Male Athlete of the Year for Basketball 5-on-5. And AJ is playing here later this year. This year, he'll be here.
Wow.
And he's going to be playing with Xavier Staten, which announced today that he's transferring to Utah Prep down in Hurricane, and he's going to play with AJ for the rest of the season.
Might as well just take their act from high school to college.
Absolutely. Staten is a 7-footer from Vegas who, before AJ signed, he was the highest rated signee in program history. And Kevin Young was asked about that today, about those two playing together now. And he's like, hey, it'd be easier to keep tabs on them playing together, get some chemistry together. And that show's coming up here later this year. So
fun. You know, and Mark Brown says, curious who you guys think has more wins 3 years from now, Mark Pope or Kevin Young. Be interesting.
That'd be interesting.
And Linda Murray says, Young. It's going to get better every year. Just think who will be here next year.
Yeah.
That's what we were just talking about. And think of who will stay.
And think who else coming after those guys.
Right. So there's going to be a core of guys coming back next year, and AJ and Xavier are going to join them.
I could see Yegor coming back next year.
Possibly, yeah.
And he told us, hey, I never said I was a one and done.
Yeah, he said that.
We'll see. Women's hoops 9-5. They're off to an 0-3 start in the Big 12. There's an interesting dynamic with this team. There's so many new pieces, and they show some really good things. I think they're better than they were last year, but they struggled out of the gate. Cincinnati beat them on New Year's Day 72-63. The Bearcats outscored them 26-6 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So BYU owned that game. And the Cougars got a 3 at the buzzer, so they got outscored 26-3 in the fourth quarter. You never see that.
No, and then they went on the road at number 18 West Virginia. I watched that game, and BYU got beat 66-53. Kimmery Congdon had 15 points. I thought BYU battled pretty well in that one for being on the road all the way on the East Coast against a nationally ranked team. I thought BYU played better in that one.
Yeah, and they turned it over 31 times in a game they lost by 13.
Yeah.
So you trim that, and West Virginia is in the top 20.
Right.
You trim that, it's a different thing. I like that they came out and they led 20-13 after the first quarter, having bombed it in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati, and I thought that showed some stuff. And we'll see. And Delaney Gibb didn't have the best road trip, but that's her first road trip in the Big 12.
She's just a freshman.
It's a different thing. And this week they got some opportunities.
Yeah, Houston's at BYU. Houston, unlike the men's team, the Houston women's team is 4-10, 0-3. They're at BYU on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. There's an opportunity to get in the win column in conference. And then number 12 Kansas State comes to BYU on Saturday. K-State's 15-1, 3-0 in the league, 4 p.m. Mountain Time. Both of those games are on ESPN Plus and BYU Radio.
And Amber Whiting will join us next week on Wise Guys. Originally scheduled for tonight, wasn't feeling good. So we say, hey, let's do it next week. So we look forward to having her in here again next Monday. Gymnastics, the Cougars finished third at the American Gold Women's Collegiate in Nashville, ahead of Nebraska and behind national contenders Oklahoma and Auburn this week. BYU's at Oregon State on Saturday. The home opener is Southern Utah. That's on January 17th at the Marriott Center.
Yeah, men's volleyball. We talk about men's volleyball?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to check right now while you talk about it and see what their national ranking is.
Just comes out tonight. So they swept Ohio State 3-1 on both Friday and Saturday in Columbus, which was pretty awesome. They're 2-0 right now. This week, St. Thomas Aquinas College is at BYU on Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, both games on BYU TV. And if you haven't had a chance yet, go back and watch the interview we did last week with Sean Olmstead at wiseguys.com. Such a fun interview, and he brought us gear. I've already worn the gear out there, out and about. We're huge volleyball fans, men's and women's side. But Sean's so fun. We love when he comes on the show.
All right, so I haven't been able to dial up the rankings yet. They were number 6. If I can find that,
I would think that sweep of Ohio State depends on what others did.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do softball while I look this up.
And by the way, my wife texted me because she said, "Why do you keep calling him Will Ferrin? His name is Big Game Bill."
Thank you, Brenda.
Correction.
Thank
Big Game
you,
Bill.
Brenda.
We should have been voting for Big Game Bill or the other guys. And Big Game Bill won 2 awards tonight, by the way. So let's move on to softball.
Yeah, move on to softball.
Find us the national ranking. We'll go to softball. Practice begins Wednesday. The season opener, BYU at UC San Diego, is on February 6th. Utility player Lily Owens is ranked number 74 on the Softball American preseason top 100 list. Owens hit .348 last season with 54 hits and 40 RBIs. And annually, we always have Coach Gordon Eakin on. He's going to join the Wise Guys on January 20th, and he'll preview the season for us. We love having Gordon on the show. And baseball.
I can't find that.
When's practice start for baseball?
Starts on Wednesday.
Okay, so Wednesday as well. Season opener, BYU at Fresno State, February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Thursday. Sorry, it starts Thursday. My bad.
Oh, Thursday, okay. But February 14th, Valentine's Day, is the BYU at Fresno State, BYU radio. You're going to go travel with them, right?
Yeah, first 11 games. I'll be on the radio.
You're going to be on the road doing the radio.
Cruising California.
Yeah. And head coach Trent Pratt will be with us next week here.
It's either next week or the week after, but we think it's next week.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
We're working around that. The school starts this week and schedules are up in the air. But he will be on with us this month. And we look forward to that. Everything's going on.
Yeah.
Everything's going on now.
Yep.
And you throw in spring practice at the end of February.
We know we need to do, and I promise you guys, I'll ask him myself when I see him here. When they get back from the coaches convention, I'm going to get Kalani to come on.
Get the head man on.
And we'll see if we can get Kalani to come in and preview spring ball for us.
That'll be a fun night. On this day, let's roll out of here. It's been an awesome show. Thank you so much for your participation on the live stream, and we hope you're enjoying the podcast. On this day, January 6th, there were some significant things that happened, and we love to just touch a bit of history as we roll out.
Do we always like to go all the way back to 1205, though?
Sometimes.
Sometimes you do
Sometimes when you find out Philip of Swabia became king of the Romans on this day in 1205. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? I'm sure that was significant. It was a
day to remember. So in 1681, the first recorded boxing match is engineered by Christopher Monk. He's the second Duke of Albemarle. Between his brother and his butcher.
Yeah, that was the first boxing match.
So he's the second Duke of Albemarle.
And we don't know who won, the brother or the butcher.
Yeah. So, but they invented boxing in 1681.
Yes, they got it going. 1898, the first telephone message from a submerged submarine by Simon Lake. What do you think they said? Hey, we're underwater.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Maybe that was the very first "Can you hear me now" commercial.
Whenever I hear underwater, I think of the Jonas Brothers from the concert this summer that you emceed.
Yeah. That Stadium of Fire?
Yeah, because one of their big songs was, I went to the year 3000. Not much has changed, but we live underwater.
They were so good. I didn't know any of their songs, but they were good.
You know what? That was the biggest pleasant surprise of the summer is how good the Jonas Brothers were.
Yeah, so. My daughter, all the kids were like, they knew every word, and I was like, okay.
So we're in music now, so let's talk about 1957. Elvis makes his 7th and final appearance on the Ed Sullivan Show.
He was wrapping it up.
Yep.
1964, the Rolling Stones start their first tour of England.
Wow.
Like what? Who are these Rolling Stones? I guess we'll go see them.
So 1973, Schoolhouse Rock debuts on ABC.
That was part of our lives.
Yes, it was.
Part of our lives. 1975, Wheel of Fortune debuted on NBC.
Yeah. And it wasn't long after that on Sesame Street, Squeal of Fortune made its debut. So 1976, Ted Turner buys the Atlanta Braves for $12 million.
That was a lot of money in 1976.
$12 million. Today's value, Dave, is what?
$2.6 billion.
Oh, my goodness.
According to Forbes. That's the value of the Braves.
Yeah.
How about that investment? I guess that worked out. In 2019, a record $3.1 million is spent on a bluefin tuna at the Tokyo Fish Market.
Why?
A bluefin tuna. Because all this sushi stuff.
Unbelievable.
That's what they did. So man, those tuna out there swimming,
they're worth a lot of worth a lot of dough.
That's swimming gold over there. But I'd starve to death next to a bluefin tuna if I had to eat sushi.
Yeah. So you don't like sushi. I do not. You're a steak and potatoes guy.
Yeah.
So, or barbecue.
But not sushi.
No. January 6th birthdays. Let's start in 1580 with John Smith. I'm talking about the John Smith, the explorer, the leader of the Virginia colony.
That needed to happen.
The original John Smith.
Yeah, that needed to happen for stuff.
Yeah.
In 1778, Thomas Lincoln was born, a farmer and father of Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, that was an important one. Without Thomas, there is no Abraham.
No.
So, in 1937, Lou Holtz, football coach, BYU beat Lou Holtz at Notre Dame in 1994.
That was a big game.
January 6th.
Jamal Willis. Yep. On this day in 1953, Malcolm Young was born, the rhythm guitarist for AC/DC. It felt like he needed to be on this list.
1957, Nancy Lopez, one of the greatest female golfers of all time.
And 1961, born on this day, Howie Long, football player, broadcaster for the NFL on Fox. I remember I interviewed him when I was back at the Super Bowl when the Patriots got beat by the Eagles. His son was playing on the Eagles, and we were waiting to go on the field afterward to do our interviews, and he was waiting to go congratulate his kid. And I'm like, hey, you're right here. We should just interview you. And he was first class, which I was glad. Sometimes people aren't that, and he was, and so I appreciated that. So happy birthday, Howie Long.
January 6th deaths, 1852, Louis Braille, the inventor of the system of reading and writing for the blind.
How significant was that person's life?
Yep. What an impact Louis Braille left on this world. 1852, he died on January 6th.
1919, President Theodore Roosevelt died on this day.
Yeah. And 2006, Lou Rawls, the great singer, passed away.
Our Wise Guy's inspirational quote of the week is from Lou Holtz. And he often says some clever things.
He have you ever seen him speak? He does like magic tricks while he's speaking. He's something.
he is something.
So
here's what he said.
Here's what Lou Holtz said. Winners embrace hard work. They love the discipline of it. They trade off their making to win. The trade-off they're making to win. So winners embrace hard work. They love the discipline of it. The trade-off they're making to win. Losers, on the other hand, see it as punishment, and that's the difference.
Yeah. Well said.
They embrace it. So
thanks to David Nixon for joining us. We'll have another big show next week. Here's where you can find us this week. Tomorrow, Blaine will be on the BYU basketball pregame show, 6 o'clock Mountain Time on BYU TV, ahead of BYU and Texas Tech.
Yeah, and that game's on ESPN Plus. So that pregame will also be on ESPN Plus. Halftime will be on ESPN Plus. So Kristen and Jeremiah will do halftime and postgame.
Next year, we'll be calling these ESPN Plus
games.
games.
ESPN Plus game next year, Dave and I will have those instead of bringing people in from the outside. So,
and then look for my stuff all week in the Deseret News.
Yep.
We do want to send our thoughts and prayers as we finish tonight to our friend Chris Hoke and his family. Chris's wife, Jamie, passed away over the weekend after a battle with cancer. Chris was an outstanding player here with the Pittsburgh Steelers, lives back in Pittsburgh in that area. Has been on this show. He's just fantastic. And here's what he posted on his Facebook page, announcing to everybody that his wife had passed away. Part of what he wrote.
And we love Chris and his family. Chris said, our family is devastated by our loss, but we know that she is now with our Savior, Jesus Christ. And is now in a state of peace, rest, and free from the terrible suffering and pain she had to endure. Christ suffered, died, and was resurrected to ensure that we will be with our dear wife and mother again. That one's close to home for me because love Chris and Jamie.
Yeah, and their kids are here at BYU, and our thoughts and prayers go to the Hokes and their family and their extended family. Ralph Mann, one of the most decorated track athletes in BYU track and field history, passed away last week after his fight with cancer. 400-meter hurdler, won 3 NCAA championships, 4 U.S. championships, and a silver medal in the 1972 Olympics. He was 75 years old, so a couple of losses,
big losses
for Cougar Nation.
And that Hoke family has been just a pillar of goodness in the Pittsburgh community for decades there, and both Chris and Jamie have been just such an example and had such a positive impact on so many people's lives. And that Hoke family will continue to do that and represent their great mother well.
Thank you for joining us for the Wise Guys tonight. Wise Guys is presented by Brady Plus, distributed by the Deseret News. 2025 is going to be our biggest year ever, and the Cougars finished it off in style with a win at the Alamo Bowl and launch into everything else here with days, weeks, and months ahead. And we'll cover it, and we appreciate all of you guys participating with us here on the show. This is one of our best.
Yeah, this was fun. And we so much appreciate all of the input from you with the Wise Guys Awards. You guys were great. We appreciate it.
And you know what? All our votes were final.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have any lingering disputes. Unlike Nixon's 5 hamburgers, which people will be buzzing about for some time.
No.
These were all legit.
And you know how they couldn't call some of the election we called them.
We called them.
We called them, and we're not going back on it. So
thanks, everybody. See you later.